Good evening, councillors. I open the December council meeting on the 10th of December 2024 at 6 p.m. Councillors, could I please request Councillor Veach to read the acknowledgement?
I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of the Bidjigal and the Gadigal peoples who occupy the Sydney coast, being the traditional owners. On behalf of Randwick City Council, I acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past and present and to Aboriginal people in attendance today.
Thank you. Councillor D'Souza the prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Almighty God, we humbly beseech you to bestow your blessings upon this council and to direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of the city of Randwick and Australia.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, councillors. Now, before we commence the formal meeting, I'd just like to acknowledge that there was a very tragic incident at Little Bay Beach on Sunday, the 8th of December 2024, where at 6:30 a.m. A gentleman had a critical medical episode, and I'd like to commend members of the public who provided essential first aid, support and CPR until emergency services arrived. I note that this will be subject to a further mayoral minute later on the business paper. Very tragically, a 52-year-old man from Matraville entered the water at Little Bay Beach, and as he was leaving, he had that incident. At the time, we've been advised that the gentleman tragically passed, and that our thoughts and our prayers go out to him, his family, friends and loved ones, as well as our thoughts to those who responded at the incident. I'd like it, if possible, we could please stand for a minute's silence. Thank you, councillors. I call for apologies and leaves of absence. Councillor Hay.
Sorry. Request for Councillor Hamilton to attend by video link.
Yes, thank you. Can I please have a mover? Moves Councillor Rosenfeld, seconded Councillor Burst. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Okay, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 26th of November 2024. Moved Councillor Rosenfeld, seconded Councillor Martin. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Councillors, are there any declarations of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests? Councillor Gordon.
I have a pecuniary interest in item CP 5424, supporting UNSW Net Zero Apartment Retrofit Project. I'm a PhD student with the university. As that research, I received a stipend. Part of that research involves a collaboration with the School of Photovoltaics and Renewable Energy Engineering. As a result, I will not be taking part in the debate or voting on the matter.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any further declarations? Councillor Hay.
For all Liberal councillors, I declare a non-significant non-pecuniary interest in CC 37 to 24, as one of the participants is known to us. One of the nominators is known to us. We will not participate in or vote on the matter. And I'll declare a non-significant non-pecuniary interest in NM 99 of 24. I've attended services at Holy Trinity Kingsford, but do not hold an executive position within the church. I will participate in and vote in the matter. Sorry, we are voting in NM. Community and Culture 37.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Said.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just announcing a non-pecuniary, non-significant declarations to MM 53/24. There's members of the one in our committee that are known to me, and the same as MM 54/24. There's also members of the executive committee of the Rainbow Club that I have known for a few years now and have associations with.
Thank you. Councillor Veach.
In relation to CC 37/24, one of the nominees is known to members of the Greens. However, it's a non-significant, non-pecuniary, and we will be voting on the matter.
Thank you. Councillor Rosenfeld.
If I could just get David to correct D as one of the nominators is known to them, not the one nominations, please. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Are there any further declarations of interest? There being no further declarations, councillors, at any point, if you feel the need to make a first subsequent declaration or to correct one, feel free at any point during the meeting. Okay, thank you. We now move to addresses of council by members of the public. I will read the chairperson's announcement. The privacy warning. In respect to the Privacy and Personal Information Protection Act, members of the public are advised that the proceedings of this meeting will be recorded for the purposes of Clause 520 to 523 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Audio-video recordings of meetings are prohibited without express permission. A person may be expelled from a meeting for using or having used an audio-video recorder without the express authority of council. Now we move to the announcement of speakers. Councillors, all members of the public addressing tonight's meeting will have a maximum of 4 minutes in which to put forward their case with no extensions available. Presenters will be stopped when the 4 minutes has expired. Councillors may ask questions of presenters at the end of each public submission. The first speaker I have this evening is CS 62/24 for the Active Transports Plan. There may be a typo in relation to this, but the first speaker I have speaking is Mr. Anthony Ryan by Microsoft Teams.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors, General Manager, council officers and fellow Randwick residents. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you. My name is Anthony Ryan. I'm a resident of Canberra Street, Randwick. I've lived in Randwick for 61 years now, so I think that almost qualifies me as being a local. I'm talking to you in relation to item CS 62/24, the Active Transport Plan, which is on page 31 of your agenda papers. In particular, talking about the proposed cycleway routes and particularly the proposed C4 route along Bundock and Sturt Streets in Randwick. I'm talking to you this evening on behalf of the residents of Bundock Street, Sturt Street, Canberra Street and the surrounding streets. In principle, the local community supports the plan presented in the agenda tonight. In relation to cycleways, the local community supports cycleways, provided they are built in optimal locations, travel on the most advantageous routes, offer features wanted by the community, and travel to desired locations. The proposed C4 route along Bundock Street and Sturt Street do not satisfy any of these above requirements as far as the local community is concerned. This proposed route has been rejected many times by the local community. In 2018, there was a protest meeting in Bundock Street attended by many locals. In 2019, there were petitions signed by 1,100 and 800 online signatures opposing this route. In 2023, I undertook a survey of all residents of Bundock Street and Sturt Street. 31% responded. Of that 31 responded, 100% responded rejected the Bundock Sturt Street route. Of those who responded, 71% supported cycleways. In March and April of this year, Randwick Council undertook a Have Your Say survey on the transport plan. Residents were asked to nominate their top 3 desired cycleway routes. Results are shown in the table on page 87 of the agenda papers. I'll just pause for one moment if you just want to open page 87, if you don't have it there in front of you, just so you can see what we're talking about. It's page 87, the table of results. You will see that C1 Anzac Parade, C5 Avoca Street and C2 Parklands to Maroubra were nominated as the top 3 preferences. C4 Bundock Street, which is labelled Coogee South Maroubra in the table, was ranked 7th in preferences and attracted only 7% support. Only 5% support for this route. This is a clear message again from the local community. The community rejects this route because of loss of trees, loss of parking, dangers caused by dangerous below-ground garages in Bundock Street, a steep hill at the eastern end of Bundock Street, which has a gradient of 6.4%, the effects on traffic in surrounding streets, and in particular the effect on rat running, which is very bad in this area already. The community regards this as a cycleway to nowhere compared to the Avoca Street route, which they fully support. The local community supports the Avoca Street route as it goes to where they want to go to. It goes past multiple schools, the University of New South Wales, the Prince of Wales Hospital, Randwick Shopping Centre, and to the Randwick Transport Light Rail terminus, which is the closest terminus to this local area. There has been expenditure, excuse me, there has been expenditure to date.
1 minute.
On the
Sorry, Mr. Ryan. Councillor Hay has moved a 1 minute extension. So if you could please wrap up your remarks, but you have 1 extra minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. There has been expenditure to date on the Bundock Street route for planning, but that does not justify further expenditure. This is just simply throwing good money after bad. This route will be a white elephant and won't serve anyone's purposes. The local community makes the following requests to the councillors. Please direct council to cease further expenditure on this route. 5% support does not justify continuation. It demands immediate cessation. Please direct the funding to routes selected as top preferences. Please respect the results of the survey and the results and the request of the community. Please speak up and give clear direction to the council as to the actions the local community wants. Thank you for your time and attention. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the Speaker? There being no questions of the Speaker, thank you very much, Mr. Ryan.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you. We now move to CS 62/24, Active Transport Plan, speaking for Mr. Tim Longhurst via Microsoft Teams. Please feel free to start when ready.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everyone. I'm just gathering my thoughts because I didn't realise what a unity ticket we were all on in terms of the breathtaking vision for Randwick that this strategy paints for us. For me, the thing that I wanted to say to the councillors and to Randwick Council is that what I was taken by when reading the report, and by the way, by way of introduction, my name is Tim Longhurst. In the professional world, my role is as a futurist, and so a lot of my work is working with leaders, assessing how the world is changing and developing strategies to adapt to a changing world. And I will say congratulations to Council for all of the hard work that's gone into this vision. And the main thrust of my presentation is that the active transport strategy must be embraced in full. I'm taken by the proposal to carve out C4 East Lakes. I beg your pardon. To carve out the Sturt Bundock cycleway, and so I'll focus the rest of my comments on that specifically. I'm involved in the local precinct committee, East Kingsford precinct, and there is overwhelming support for Council's active transport strategy in full, and that includes Sturt and Bundock as proposed. I'm actually feeling a little uncomfortable by the previous speaker purporting to speak on behalf of the community. I will say a few points in terms of my involvement in the community and my direct experience with Sturt and Bundock. My understanding is that the Sturt and Bundock cycleway was approved, and the communication from council to residents began in 2019. And I can say this with some confidence because I've been involved I live on Sturt Street, and something that comes to mind that I'd like to raise is in recent months, I heard a loud bang outside my property, and like many residents, I made my way to the front door to see what had happened. And very sadly and confrontingly, there was a person lying on the road and his bicycle was mangled and it was underneath a car. Now that person, residents went to render assistance, and that person turned out to be a baker who was coming off his shift. Sturt and Bundock is the perfect place for a cycleway. In fact, the reality is that the cycle vision for from the active transport strategy is one where the network strengthens as nodes on and connections on the network are improved. And I will say that I'm really surprised that the previous speaker dedicated so much of his time to claiming that it's talking as if the Sturt Bundock vision hasn't been adapted by council over the years. He mentioned years old complaint that residents had that the vision for Sturt and Bundock that's being proposed today have adapted to. There were concerns about trees. Those concerns have been addressed in the final vision that is now waiting for funding. He mentioned that there was a walk through the neighbourhood. I've heard about that walk. It wasn't a well-attended walk. It's not like a whole bunch of people from Sturt and Bundock participated in that occasion. I would say that as someone who does ride a bike, I'm really excited about the potential for so many more people to join me and feeling safer in riding in the Randwick community. There's one of the things that the hundreds of people who participate in the active transport strategy
1 minute
raise.
extension.
Thank you so much. One of the things that residents who participated in the community consultation raised is that many of them are waiting for the infrastructure to catch up with their desires of their vision for how Randwick could become. And the Sturt Bundock link is what will connect so many people in our community from Randwick and beyond to for example, Coogee. So for the idea that business owners in Coogee will miss out on a cycleway, a cycle link that connects people from all around Sydney through Kingsford and delivers customers right into shop fronts is astounding to me. And I really think that councillors who say, if there's well, I don't know what councillors are thinking, but if anyone thinks we should delay that link in particular, I think given that we've got state and federal governments wanting to give us funding, wanting to fund cycle programs like this, we'd be saying no to money, and we'd be saying no to money from the government, and we'd be saying no to customers who will love to arrive on bike, for example, using the connection of light rail, which terminates at Sturt Street, and that's why it's the most perfect place for a cycle route.
Thank you, Mr. Longhurst. You have utilised all of your time. Councillors, are there any speakers? Any questions? There is a question from Councillor Magna.
Thanks, Mr. Longhurst. Just reflecting and perhaps zooming out and drawing upon your professional experience and the work you do, projecting into the future, what would your observations be, and if you can apply it more specifically to this question of the active transport plan, where you've observed cultural shift and tipping points in proposing plans that often face resistance in the initial phase, but once they're been adopted and implemented, there's a change in the community experience, particularly for those people who might initially have some reservations. Just wondering if you can share some of your professional insights applied to the case that the councillors need to turn their mind to later in this meeting.
Mr.
Sure. Well, thank you. It raises a few things come to mind. The first thing I'd say is there's a trend towards micro-mobility that the strategy addresses in the early pages. And that is increasingly, thanks in part to batteries, people are finding themselves more confident to ride bikes and scooters further distances. And so one of the things that this strategy does is it anticipates how people will be moving into the future and addresses the infrastructure needs now. It does that, but it also addresses the shortfalls in residents' experiences as they express them in the present moment. And so in some ways, unfortunately, council is playing catch up in terms of infrastructure, but in other ways, they're anticipating how people will change over time. In terms of your question about, I understand the sentiment is, well, sometimes change can be hard. And what I'd say to that is sometimes not changing is harder. Remember, at the core of this strategy is reducing deaths in our community, road deaths, by 50%. The vision that's being proposed here is about creating a place where people feel safe and safe to move through our community, whether it's be bike on mobility scooter, in wheelchairs, or on foot. This is about increasing the amount of time that the amount of people who feel safe to send their kids to school by foot or on bikes. And so at first, I can see the resistance will, of course, occur in the community because as they adapt to new streetscapes. That's just part of what happens. But I think that some of the resistance that we're seeing in Randwick at the moment, and I acknowledge we've heard from a speaker who definitely is feeling some of that resistance. I look to areas, for example, the Corso in Manly. It's a vibrant hub for the community in Northern Beaches Council, and it's also somewhere where active transport is put at the centre, and people from around the world are drawn to experience playgrounds in the middle of what used to be streets. And so I think that for a lot of the residents in Randwick, in the Facebook groups and the online communities, people are discussing visions that are quite ambitious about how Randwick could be reimagined into the future. The appetite is very high. For example, 2 points. One is there's concern about Coogee Bay Road, and a car was flipped in recent weeks. I mentioned in a Facebook forum, in a forum, that best practice is reducing speeds in local communities to 30 kilometres per hour. And that comment was the most enthusiastically received comment in the community forum. A second example would be someone was complaining about the traffic at Maroubra Beach. And I said, I wondered aloud, perhaps it will become a plaza like the Corso in Manly, and the street will open up to more participation of people on foot, listening to music, enjoying alfresco dining. And again, that was a very enthusiastically received comment. So I understand there's resistance, but and my professional experience is that there are people who tend to fight the future, and we sometimes need to take their views on board and bring them with us because they're members of our community who are worthy of respect and belonging. But we can't let them drag us backwards. My biggest concern is that we've got a cycleway on Sturt Street that was promised 5 years ago, and it's completely in line with state and federal objectives. It's sitting, waiting to be funded. And if we can communicate from Randwick that the residents and the council are sufficiently aligned to welcome that funding, then that's millions of dollars of infrastructure that we'll be saying yes to.
Okay, thank you. There being a gentle reminder to the gallery that the gallery should remain silent. Are there no further questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Longhurst.
Thank you.
We now move to the next item, CS 63/24, Coogee Beach Volleyball Association Licence Agreement Alteration Request. Speaking for Ms. Lauren Urtis-Berea, my apologies if I got that wrong, representing the Coogee Beach Volleyball Association.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lauren Urtis-Berea. I'm 26 years old, and I'm Vice President of Coogee Beach Volleyball Association. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. On behalf of Coogee Beach Volleyball Association, I would like to express our gratitude to the Council's continuous support to our club and the activities we deliver to the community. Thanks to this partnership, CBVA has grown into a vibrant community of nearly 500 members, fostering health, inclusion, and a shared passion for beach volleyball at Coogee Beach. We truly appreciate the efforts you've invested in assessing our recent requests, and a special thanks to Joe, Technical Services Manager, for his help. The Coogee Beach Volleyball Association fully supports the two recommendations to the Council, item number 1 and item number 3, extending the operating hours of courts 3 and 4 during the summer period and expanding our storage facility. Firstly, extending the allowable use times of 2 courts during the summer month to match those of the 3 other courts would significantly benefit our club. With community participation in beach volleyball steadily growing, the current restrictions limit our ability to meet demands and offer valuable initiatives such as training, junior program, and social play time opportunities that encourage active lifestyles and reduce sedentary behaviors. With your approval, this change will provide our members with more opportunities to play together and fulfill our purpose, bringing together people through beach volleyball. Extended court hours will enable members to play and train more during the summer, which is the peak season for our sports. This increased access will not only enhance the social and community aspects of our club, but will also support those members who compete at a high level, contributing to the renowned reputation of our club. Many of our players participate in prestigious tournaments, such as the New South Wales Beach Volleyball Championship, held just last weekend with almost 400 players. And these additional time slots will help them prepare and perform at their best. On item number 3, about the expansion of our storage box, as a growing community and a club with diverse and evolving needs, having adequate storage is essential to support our activities. An expanded storage facility will allow us to securely store the specialized equipment required for various programs, such as the junior training and adult sessions. For example, our coaches currently transport special equipment like sand conditioning and agility tools to the beach in their cars for every session. With additional storage space, we can reduce this logistical burden, improve efficiency, and ensure that our equipment is always ready, available to support high-quality training. Again, we are very grateful for the support of the 2 requests. On item number 3, on our request to play on Sunday before 12 a.m. on court 4 and 5, page 104 of the report. As you could see, the courts are located very away from the Nippers activity, and we have received support from the Coogee Nipper captain to play during those time. And on the potential noise, we hear the council concern, and we would like to propose a compromise with a later start at 8 a.m. So.
Can I move a 1-minute extension?
Thank you. In conclusion, the proposed changes will significantly enhance the Coogee Beach Volleyball Association ability to serve growing community, offering more opportunities to play, train, and community engagement. By extending court hours and increasing store space, we are better equipped to support our members' diverse needs and foster a healthy, active, and inclusive environment at Coogee Beach. We deeply appreciate the Council's consideration of this recommendation and look forward to continuing our partnership to further enrich the community. Thank you for your time and your listening.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the Speaker? There being no questions of the Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We now move to CS 64/24, Maryborough Reserve, proposed off-leash dog park, speaking against Ms. Kerry Hamer.
Good evening, everyone, and congratulations to those new council members and the returning councillors. And Mr. Brownlee, nice to see you again. I don't envy your role. Thank you. As you have to set aside your own biases on matters such as this. I wonder how many of you are dog owners and how many of the council officers who put together this report are also. I hope you have taken a lot of time to read the full report and comments and decide if the report is an accurate reflection of what data and comments have been collected. Making a decision based only on the executive summary would be a disservice to the community. You need to look at the construction of the survey and the way the issues were communicated to the public. If, for example, the proposal was for part of the reserve to be leash-free, the statistics would not change much and probably improve the responses, would be less divided and not set the community up for division. I am asking for objective policy making rather than popularism. If you reward people who are breaking the rules, then apply this to parking, garbage, etc., etc. It does not send a good message to all. I also have a bias. I was one of the 2 community activists who rallied the local community in the 90s to save the open space from a large residential development. It was proposed to call the Save Green Space the People's Park, but council decided on Maryborough Reserve. The irony is the proposed name People's Park is that unfortunately more and more people are becoming alienated by all the uncontrolled dogs. More irony is found in that the communication material which states that it is already informally leash-free. It is not informally leash-free, it is illegally leash-free. This has alienated many general users and skewed the data. That's why the report states, can I have slide 3? Thank you. That dog walking is the most popular activity. This is because too many people feel unsafe and have stopped using the park because of bad incidents. Council's material states that dog off-leash parks can be shared by everyone. Sadly, no. Even some dog owners raise concerns about conflicting use. Dog owners must maintain effective control of their dog and pick up after them. Really? This does not happen. How many of you check your shoes after walking in this local government area? The recommendations and the conclusions of the report are at odds with the content of the substantive comments. Next slide, please. One of the strongest themes that came through the 343 comments and 18 submissions was the idea that the reserve be divided in two. Most suggested the upper area bordering on Ryde and Duncan be for no dogs off leash, encompassing the cricket nets and near the playground suitable for ball games, picnics, and it isn't dug up as much. The lower area bordering Duncan and McKeon Street to be leash-free area. Less noise for the residents and away from the passive and active recreation areas of the upper parts. The recent installation of the water fountain with the dog bowl between the community garden gate and the children's playground gate has created a serious risk of injury and contravenes council's own planning guidelines. There are to be no dogs within 10 metres of a children's playground. We have ended up in this horrible predicament because council is not enforcing its rules and did not deliver what dog owners asked for at Broad Arrow Reserve, a fenced area. If 58 respondents said they would drive to Maryborough, then equally they could drive to Broad Arrow. Why wouldn't they? It's not fenced. Why didn't council look at fixing the problem? Another problem is that council rangers are frequently abused, which is completely unacceptable. Penalties are a rarity. Support from the local police would assist the rangers to do their job and enhance community safety overall. We all know what keeps us from not speeding or drink driving is the fear of immediate financial penalty and points. If you want to change people's behaviour, the only way is to penalise them. I wish this was different. If council issued penalty notices to every owner with a dog off their leash or on the beach, word would get around quickly that dog laws need to be obeyed and are being enforced. Why did I pick the beach? Because it's already becoming by stealth the next area that will become an informal, dare I say, illegal area. Responsible dog owners do deserve a safe area for their dogs. Parents and grandparents also need a safe, open spaces to play with children. Currently, there are none because the dog owners have taken over. It's true of every park, footpath and open space in Maroubra and repeatedly reported in the comments. Even children who were not afraid of dogs are now because many dogs are not under effective control. Even some dog owners worry about other irresponsible dog owners and don't take their dogs to the reserve. They want your support too. Yes.
Just if you could conclude your remarks, please.
Okay. In my recommendations, the serious nature of the concerns people raised in the report need to be addressed, and a recommendation about these concerns should be included in the final decision. There is a significant proportion of people very worried about health, safety issues, lack of amenity and lack of council action. There needs to be an enforcement blitz. I think this council could do better and not jump to a simple solution for a complex problem. It's up to you to make this better outcome for most, and I implore you to explore the option of divided areas within the reserve. Dog owners would be happy if part of the area is safe and fenced, and non-dog owners would be happy to get part of their park back. And I'm usually so proud of Randwick Council, but at the moment I feel let down because I feel unsafe when I walk around. Thank you.
Are there any questions of the speaker? There being no questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now move to notice of rescission motion submitted by councillors Hamilton, Martin and Rosenfeld, Coogee Beach Amenities, Kiosk and Bus Shelter Project, outcomes of Stage 2 community consultation. Speaking against, Ms Rona Wade, representing the Coogee Precinct.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to speak. and I'm representing the Coogee precinct. I just want to say that when the council officers came to the precinct several months ago and outlined the plans for the new build, the precinct participants made their feelings very clear, or their opinions very clear, to the council officers there, and we understood them to say that they had taken on board what we'd said and that they would go away and have the architect look at the plans and come back to us with different plans. But when we saw the plans at the meeting a fortnight ago, as far as we could see, they were no different. It was just the same concrete slab on a solid building to take the place of a building that sits very lightly in the foreshore. And at the meeting last week, a fortnight ago, when the report that was presented to you didn't compare apples with apples. For instance, it didn't include extra seating for the kiosk or in the refurb option, or a storage facility. They could have easily been included in the refurb option. So, and Councillor Wilson and D'Souza's resolution, which this rescission motion is trying to overturn, supports a storage facility and provides, but at the same time provides the opportunity for the architects to renew the plans in a way that pays respect to the history and low-key ambience of the foreshore. And I'll talk more about that later. But at the last council meeting, one of the arguments for the new build was that the toilets were disgusting. Well, not everybody finds them disgusting, but the refurbishment option included a major focus on the toilets and in fact scored higher than the new build option. So on that front, so why you would care about the toilets and then vote for the new build was a puzzle. But anyway, I just want to draw your attention to the Coogee Beach Foreshore Plan of Management, which many of you may have seen, but this is or all of you would have seen, but this is, as we understood it, the premier planning instrument for the foreshore. And it was prepared in accordance with the New South Wales Crown's Land Act, and so it has all that backing behind it. And in this plan of management, it talks about the values that the community had a huge consultation process. The value that the community saw in the foreshore, one was its low-key village atmosphere and its relatively unspoilt nature, and the other was its historical significance as reflected in its buildings and history of use. And this is a really important part, which helped give Coogee its unique sense of place, and that is so important in Coogee. In respect to the kiosk toilet amenity bus stop facility, the plan of management tells us that the buildings that are there now were built in the 1980s, reminiscent of the tram shed that previously stood in the location, and that the architects took care to respect the history and heritage of the area and to provide a memory of the historical development of the area. And the aesthetic significance of this complex of buildings is that they are an integral part of the 1980s design of Goldstein Reserve. Then in the recommendations, the plan of management says that any alteration should be designed by an architect selected by council, obviously, and that architect should consult with the plan of management architects, the people who prepared this plan of management, a company called Design 5, which still exists, and in fact the very person who oversaw the preparation of this plan of management is still with them. So I don't know whether the architects of the new build consulted with these people, but they should have under the plan of management, and I would have thought council should have required that they did. And furthermore, the plan of management talks about the design should be designed to look and feel as open as possible to minimise its visual presence on the reserve. Well, the new build certainly doesn't do that, but the resolution as put forward, as I said, by Councillors Wilson and D'Souza, I think try and bring the two together by proceeding with the new bill, but not in the way presented in the report at the last meeting, but have the architect go back and review it in the light of the history and heritage of the area, and I'd like to think also in the light of the plan of management,
Thank you very much.
which is a wonderful document, and it's the Bible of anyone who lives in Coogee. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Speaker? There being no questions for the Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillors. We'll now move down the agenda in relation to it. I'm just conscious of time, and so what I will do is I will take all of the mayoral minutes as read. The first mayoral minute I go to is MM52/24, financial assistance and donations. I take the mayoral minute as read. Are there any speakers? There being no speakers, I'll now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. MM53/24, when no one is watching, touch football competition, March 2025, waiver of fees. Councillors, I take the mayoral minute as read. Are there any speakers? There being no speakers, all those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. MM54/24, ongoing support for the Rainbow Club of Australia, Murray Rose, Malabar Magic, Ocean Swim. Councillors, I take that as read. Are there any comments? Okay, all those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. MM55/24, spot on. Councillors, I take that as read. There's a speaker, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Only wish to say that I attended the fresco dining at every opportunity, including the rain, which we had a couple of weeks. It was well received and attended by the community. It was great to see the numbers grow each week and the variety of entertainment that we had. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and well done to all the council staff involved, and we hope to see it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Okay, thank you, and I'll put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Just before we continue, Councillor Hamilton, just so you're aware, you're quite small for me. There's nothing which, in terms of on the screen, so if for some reason you have your hand up, please feel free to interrupt the proceedings so I can actually thank you, Hawa, for bringing that up, just because it was very small. So if you have your hand up, I just couldn't see it. That's a lot better, so thank you very much. But if you need to actually shout out, please do. Okay, we now move to urgent business. Is there any business?
Point of order.
Oh, sorry, my apologies.
What about
the supplementary?
MM56?
Yep, so we go to the additional mayoral minutes. MM56/24, additional financial assistance and donations. Councillors, I take that as read. Are there any speakers?
Yes,
Yes.
I would like to say something.
Councillor Hamilton.
Okay, I commend your two mayoral minutes with regards to the WN Now and this 56 as well. But what I would say is you're giving the mayoral minute 53/24, you're giving $960, and I understand that is specific enough because of the level of detail that they're provided in requesting for the financial assistance. And I just think, given that this is a extremely important issue around domestic abuse and support for victim survivors, I believe that you should increase your amount from $500 to match it dollar for dollar to $960.
Councillor Hamilton, I'm happy to accept that as a suggestion and move it in an amended fashion. Thank you. Are there? You don't for a mayoral minute, so but that's okay. Are there any further speakers in relation to this? Just for the benefit of Mr. Kelly, they were increasing that amount to $960 for the Financial Impact Council. Thank you. There being no further speakers, I'll now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. MM57/24, the provision of a defibrillator at Little Bay Beach. Councillors, the motion seeks to, one, as mentioned previously, commend members of the public who responded to the very tragic incident at Little Bay Beach on Sunday the 8th of December 2024. But it also adds a point B and a point C to investigate the immediate installation of a council-owned and operated publicly accessible defibrillator at Little Bay Beach, and C, ensure that an appropriately scheduled maintenance and testing regime is implemented by council officers for the defibrillator. This proposal is for the addition of a new council defibrillator. While there was one on site, I'm advised that there may have been issues in relation to the operation of that. I don't wish to make any assertions in relation to that, but the view is I think it would be only prudent for council to install an additional one. Additional precautions can only go well. They cannot hinder in that regard. So I appreciate the assistance from council staff for their very prompt turnaround of this mayoral minute and advice concerning this matter as well. So I commend the mayoral minute to the floor. Are there any speakers? Councillor Magna.
I'd like to speak in enthusiastic support for this resolution. I've been personally touched by a death in the family as a result of a sudden heart attack, and the presence and the advice I've received from cardiologists is that the timely intervention of a automatic defibrillator can mean the difference between life and death, and anything that we can do as a council and as a community to ensure that those are readily available and that there's literacy in our community about their responsible use, we will be better for. Checking of their battery power and the replacement of the tabs, that there's a maintenance program that goes in lockstep with the provision that you've proposed in the amendment, and I commend the amendment to the council. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. There being any further speakers? Councillor Burst.
I'd like to commend this motion from the Mayor. Also, is it possible to add a point D? If we could look at adding an AED to Little Bay Town Centre, as most of the people, if they come up those stairs, if they don't have an episode on the beach and start walking up towards the shops, it's probably around the shops that you would need one of these AEDs. So if we could possibly look at that as well as an additional, keep our community safer, and potentially we could save a life if we've got one there.
Councillor Burst, in relation to that, I would be happy to accept words to the effect of adding an AED to the Little Bay Town Centre for investigation. The reason why it would simply be identifying sites, yes, suitable locations, things like that, which just on the advice of staff. But does that work for you, Councillor Burst?
Perfect, that's great.
Okay. Mr Kelly, D, adding an AED to the Little Bay Town Centre for investigation. Thank you. There being no further speakers, I'll now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. The other supplementary items are questions with notice, which are for noting. So if I'm correct, no motions required. They just get noted. Thank you. We now move to councillors. Is there any urgent business? Okay, thank you. There being no urgent business, we'll now move down in seriatim. Councillors, if you could please call out if you are challenging items. We commence with Director, so there are no General Manager's reports. We now move to Director of City Planning reports, CP 54/24, supporting the UNSW Net Zero Apartment Retrofit Project. Councillor, challenged by Councillor Veach. Okay, thank you. We have CP 55/24, challenged by Councillor, I saw Councillor Magna. Thank you. I saw Councillor Magna.
Point of order, that's...
Thank you.
Actually, can I ask a question?
Thank you.
Can I ask a question to the General Manager, just on a procedural issue, General Manager? I clearly challenged that, and the Mayor called out Councillor Magna. Is that correct in the code of meeting, code of conduct?
Sorry, through to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, I need to remind you that at all times the Mayor has responsibility for chairing the meeting. Who the Mayor calls is a matter for the Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. CS 62/24, Active Transport Plan. Challenged by Councillor Hay. Okay. We now move to CS
Challenge.
63/24, Coogee Beach Volleyball Association Licence Agreement Alteration Request.
Just making
Challenged
sure you
by
heard me.
Councillor Martin.
Thank
I will
you.
call it after I have read the title. Thank you. CS 64/24, Maryborough Reserve Proposed Off-Leash Dog Park, challenged by Councillor Gordon. Actually, what I might do is I'll just write that out. Choose Hay, Martin, Gordon. CC 31/24, C Place on Country, challenged by Councillor Magna. Thank you. Remind councillors to call out when you are seeking to challenge. Thank you. CC 32/24, Randwick Draft MOBA, challenged by Councillor Luxford. CC 33/24, Community Engagement Strategy, challenged by Councillor Magna. CC 34/24, Business Sydney Renewal of Membership 25 to 26, challenged by Councillor Rosenfeld. Challenged by Councillor Rosenfeld. CC 35/35, South East Sydney Block Party 2025, challenged by Councillor Gordon. Okay, thank you. Can I please have someone move the unchallenged items? Are there any unchallenged items? Which one is what is the unchallenged item? No, it wasn't that one. Hold on. I think you've all challenged all items. Yeah, I don't like our chances getting out of here. All right, there being no unchallenged items to move, we will now move to the first item, which is challenged. CP 54/24, supporting UNSW Net Zero Apartment Retrofit Project. I'll just give Councillor Gordon time to leave the room. Councillor Veach.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm moving this as per the recommendation on the business paper. I did meet with representatives from UNSW SPREE, the School of Photovoltaic Energy, at UNSW to discuss, just to learn about some of their activities, and this was one of the projects that they were looking at. We know that we've had an excellent uptake of residents in our LGA of rooftop solar, but of course, as we have identified in recent years, it's only really if you're very fortunate to own your own standalone home that you are able to install rooftop solar or batteries. If you rent, and most particularly if you live in an apartment, there are real barriers, and a very high percentage of our residents do live in medium or high density housing, and there are really significant barriers to them. Not only obviously are there terrific environmental benefits from rooftop solar and batteries, but the cost savings are significant. And so we want everyone, all of our residents, no matter if you live in a standalone home or in an apartment, to be able to access affordable on-site renewable energy. This will mean we can be part of this program that's being developed through the expert staff at UNSW. This will be a pilot, it will be a case study, and hopefully it will pave the way, solve some of these problems, remove some of these barriers to people who live in apartments from accessing affordable renewable energy. So I commend the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Magna.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to commend the resolution by Councillor Veach to the Council. I think the partnership with the University of New South Wales is an excellent initiative for this Council to collaborate on, particularly as Councillor Veach has highlighted the predominance of apartments, particularly 1960s and 1970s walk-up apartments that have proven to be particularly difficult for residents and owners to implement zero emission technology and adjustments and retrofitting improvements. This collaboration aligns perfectly with the Council's sustainability goals, our vision for a reduction in emissions to 60% by 2030. And I think any partnership working alongside great public institutions like the University of New South Wales that reside within the local government area can only forge greater connections and collaboration and innovation across the council's operations. And I urge all of the councillors to give this motion their support. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being Councillor Hay.
I just like to very quickly mention that when we're talking to the community about the environment levy, there was a community consultation around solar storage batteries and rebates for sustainability rebates and a solar farm at Des Road Leisure Centre. It never said anything about supporting a UNSW research project. I'm very concerned. I mean, I love UNSW and I love research. I have a science degree with that myself. It's nice to support this sort of thing, but I'm very worried about the mission creep that's happening and how we're taking money that's meant to be spent on the community and not spending it on what we can consult the community about. So I just want to flag that. I'll still support this measure, but I'll just flag that as a potential issue.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Veitch to close the debate.
Thank you, and thank you to Councillor Hay for your question. It is worth raising, but I'll also just note the fact that, as Councillor Magna mentioned, we do have our environment strategy, which does commit us to 60% emission reductions by 2030, which is rapidly coming upon us, and there is also a council resolution from the previous term, which is trying to look at this problem of how we can assist people in apartments to access renewables. And while it does appear that we may be handing money over to another institution, in fact, it's likely to save us some money because we just simply don't have the resources and expertise within council to conduct this work. It has been really, really difficult. And the fact that they have received some other funds and they're reaching out to other councils means we actually have an opportunity to save money and act on other council resolutions, progress our existing strategies and really hopefully deliver savings to our community members, many of whom do live in apartments. So thank you for the question, and I hope this will save both council and our community funds down the track.
Thank you. I'll now put it. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to CP 55/24, Homes New South Wales redevelopment of 195 to 213 Fitzgerald Avenue and 40 to 64 Yorktown Parade, Maroubra. Challenged by Councillor Magna. Councillor Magna, could you please outline what it is that you're moving? Thank you. Just the microphone on.
The recommendation as per the business paper.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor D'Souza. Councillor Magna is the mover of the motion. Do you wish to speak to it?
Reserve my rights.
Thank you. Councillor D'Souza. Thank you. I saw a hand up. I'm actually going to go to Councillor Rosenfeld and then I'll go to you, Councillor Veitch. Councillor Rosenfeld.
Okay, I have an amendment and I sent it through to David Kelly. Ooh, it's very small on that one, but read on this one. Okay, so basically I read through it, looks good. The only thing that I didn't like is the fact that the proposal states no natural gas connections. And I would like an amendment whereby in the submission we add council notes, or we add a title natural gas in line with how the submission looks at the moment. And then we basically add council note that the SSD proposal states no natural gas connections and ask that this not be the case and such connections are provided for. And once added, the council can endorse the submission. Now, the reason I ask that is that I'm quite surprised that Homes New South Wales has stated this because they are a state government body, and when another city council mentioned that they're banning gas for new developments, I think it was last year, The media obviously took hold of it, and Chris Minns was on the radio saying he'll overturn it. His government will ensure there is natural gas, and he will definitely overturn it. So I'm quite surprised that a department of the state government, Homes New South Wales, is proposing no natural gas. And for those councillors returning, you will recall that there was an attempt to ban natural gas for all new developments in Randwick by a councillor, and it was defeated with support. Basically, I know all the Liberals voted to defeat it, amongst those who voted to defeat it. So our council has actually voted not to pursue this. So I ask that we add this to our submission to Homes New South Wales for the department to consider.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Hay as the... actually, before I do that, Councillor Magna, do you accept the amendment?
The amendment is not accepted.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hay, and then I'll go to Councillor Wellington.
Thank you.
And
I'd
then
like
I'll go
to
to Councillor Burst.
Thank you. This proposal calls for these properties to be social and affordable dwellings. Now, if you give people just one measure of energy, which is electricity, that means if the electricity prices go up, they're stuck paying whatever the electricity companies require. If you give them the option to choose gas, that means they can, and let's say electricity prices are high, gas is low, that means they can move to more gas heating, for example, and save money. So this is about social affordable housing. This is about looking after the poor and providing these 144 dwellings with an appropriate choice of energy consumption is standard. It's an option that most of us already have in our houses, and there's absolutely every reason why the new residents who are coming in these 144 dwellings should have the same opportunity afforded to them. Thank you.
Councillor Wellington.
I rise to speak with my medical background at the forefront of my mind. If you go to the Asthma Foundation and their resources, one of the key things that they will advise, and it is with indisputable and beyond contest, is that gas appliances in the home have a very detrimental effect on childhood asthma by a clear and measurable amount. Gas appliances in the home are dangerous to health. Chronic disease is more evident in people who have fewer resources, and I speak on behalf of children with asthma. There should be no gas appliances in homes supported by any council anywhere. And the Asthma Foundation has lots of resources to back this up. Furthermore, natural gas is of the past and we are of the future. Thank you.
Councillor Burst.
I live down in the South Ward, and down in the South Ward we've got the Malabar Wastewater Treatment Plant. Now down in that Malabar Wastewater Treatment Plant we have the Malabar Biomethane Facility. Now this is a facility, a multi-million-dollar project that was jointly funded by Gemina and the Australian Renewable Energy Agency to create a facility that creates biogas in its anaerobic digesters. This is basically a game changer in that it is now giving gas to 6,300 homes in our area as this gas is plugged back into the system. So basically what we're doing is we're getting sewage, we're processing it, and we're bringing it back into the gas system. This is called renewable gas. And has been supported by all of the renewable companies, especially ARENA. And it was a federal and New South Wales Liberal initiative that drove this renewable gas project. And I'm proud of it that it will also, as it gets upgraded, it will go to, they will support over 13,000 homes in our area. So basically by going to the toilet We're putting gas out into people's homes. We're keeping people warm. We're keeping the lights on. We're giving them hot water. So I'm very proud of the Malabar biomethane facility, and I think that we should support this amendment because electricity costs are going through the roof and they're not going to get cheaper. They're certainly not going to get cheaper. They're going to be locked in with carbon rebates and so on. They're not going to get cheaper. So we need to give people an opportunity for different varieties of energy. And this will be one way that across New South Wales and across Australia, we'll be able to get more gas without having to mine for it, because it's going to be there. It's there for us at every sewage works across Australia. So what a great renewable gas. What a great idea. Thank you.
Are there any further speakers on the amendment? There being no further speakers on the amendment, I will now put the amendment. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? No. I declare the amendment lost. Fair enough. All those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hand. Councillor Hamilton? I can't see your hand. Okay, I take it that your Councillor Hamilton's hand is up. Councillor Willington, my apologies.
Yeah,
Councillor
sorry.
Hamilton, Councillor Hamilton,
Hard to see.
Councillor Hay, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor Martin, Councillor Burst. Okay, all those against. We have Councillor Willington, Councillor Magna, Councillor Beach, Councillor Gordon, Councillor Asgari, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Said, Councillor De Souza and the Mayor. I declare the amendment lost. Okay, we now move to, I believe Councillor Veach was seeking to foreshadow.
Yes, I also would like to move an amendment. I've sent it through to Mr. Kelly. So this is to add sort of an additional group of dot points to the recommendation, which is that council call on Homes New South Wales to, and also write to the New South Wales Government to consult with current residents of these properties with respect to the design of any redevelopment, to keep the entire site and any development at the two sites in 100% public ownership and management and for the purpose of public housing, and to ensure that other housing developments on Crown land are for the purpose of public housing. So, councillors, I'll draw your attention to a couple of points on page 17 and 18. And if you look at the table on page 17, you'll note that obviously the new dwellings will be comprised of 94 affordable homes, dwellings, and 50 social homes. And that currently what we have on the two sites is a total of 33 public home dwellings. However, if you look at the amount of bedrooms, comparing the current public and the proposed public, although we currently only have 33 dwellings, each of those is 3 bedroom. So we have 99 bedrooms in the current site, whereas under the new lot, under the social housing component, even though there appears to be a modest increase going up from 33 to 50 dwellings, there will actually only be a total of 50 bedrooms. So it's actually going to be a net loss. We're going from 33 dwellings with 99 bedrooms to 50 dwellings with only 50 bedrooms. So we're actually seeing a loss of space for public housing tenants. And with the affordable housing component, the ownership of that will be transferred to the community housing provider, and they'll only be required to provide that affordable housing for 25 years. Then they can actually do with it what they like. And you can imagine, given the desirability of that site in Maroubra, close to the beach in the eastern suburbs and a lot of different amenities, that I would say without any covenant in place, and there is no covenant in place, there will be it would be likely to be quite desirable for them to offload that property and use it to buy another site, perhaps further out, where they can probably build more social housing dwellings. However, they won't be in our area and they won't support our local residents in affordable housing. So we're actually losing, we're ending up, as a result of this proposition, we're losing quite a lot of bedrooms. We're going to end up with less, there'll be no public housing at all, there'll be social housing with much less bedrooms, and the affordable housing component will only be guaranteed for 25 years, which seems like a long time. But myself and my family ticked over 20 years living in the Randwick LGA just this year, and now it just seems like it's gone in a flash. So it really is just one generation, and it's not a competition.
Thank you, councillors. We will keep directly to the motion at hand.
I'll wind up. So I'm proposing that we don't change anything in the submission. The staff have done a great job pointing out many good issues in the submission. All we're doing is saying we should just be noting to the state government that our position is that this remain in 100% public hands, because that will be what most benefits our community in the long term. The long term best interest is that we keep that public housing, because once that affordable housing part has been sold off to this community housing provider, we will never get that back. There is not going to be any additional sites left in our LGA to build more public housing. So if they keep chipping away at it, we are just going to be left in an area with no diversity of housing, people on different incomes, from different backgrounds. It's going to really change, and I think that would really be a disbenefit. So I urge you to support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Willington.
Thank you, I reserve my right. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers on the amendment? Councillor Gordon. Okay. Councillor Magna, do you accept the amendment?
The amendment is not accepted.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'd just like to say, first of all, that I am as much of a supporter of social and affordable housing as I'm sure you are, Councillor Veach. I just wanted to say that the suggestion that there is an overall loss of affordable housing is a bit of, I would say, a narrow analysis of what's being proposed. So first of all, the bedroom component is addressed in this report. This report states that there is an increased amount of demand for 1 and 2 bedroom units as opposed to family units. That's clear with the data, and what this redevelopment seeks to provide is an increased number of 1 and 2 bedroom units as opposed to those family units, which does result in an increased loss of bedrooms, but the upshot is that the bedrooms will be more filled, ensuring a more efficient use of the housing. Secondly, the community housing provider model is a key requirement of funding for this project. So, but just a bit of back context for jurisdictions, like every state jurisdiction in Australia is moving towards the community housing provider model and away from the fully public model. And the benefits of this are that a diversity of tenants is present in these buildings, so that disadvantage is not concentrated, and these community housing providers have the ability to look after people with complex needs. The era of throwing someone with say, mental health issues or drug and alcohol issues or disability, and throwing them the keys and saying, good luck, here's your house, is long over, and I think that jurisdictions have responded to that demand. So what this really does is this funding model relies on the provision of both social and affordable housing through the community housing provider, so it's essential to keep that in place. As a result, I don't agree with the proposed amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers on the amendment? There being no further speakers on the amendment, I'll now put it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Actually, just hold on. Do I require a record of voting on an amendment for a planning matter? Yeah, we do. Okay, we'll go straight to a division as in relation to that. So all those in favour of the amendment moved Veach, Willington. I have Councillor Willington, Councillor Veach, Councillor Asghari. All those against. I have, I believe, Councillor Hamilton. I can't see your hand. Yep, thank you. Councillor Magna, Councillor Hay, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Gordon, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor Martin, Councillor Wilson, said Burst, D'Souza and the Mayor. I declare the amendment lost. We now move to the debate on the original motion as per the business paper. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Magna, do you wish to close the debate?
Very briefly, Mr Mayor, I think this has been a really constructive debate and one that I hope can be replicated in other matters. Even though the amendment from Councillor Burst was not one that we supported, I respect the sentiment and the spirit with which he brought the resolution. I also want to congratulate and thank Councillor Veach for her intent, and while we did not support the amendment on that time, I think for the reasons that Councillor Gordon spoke about, and I understand and appreciate the very careful forensic work that's been undertaken by the council officers, the work that they've done with the Housing Development Corporation, understanding that this challenge of affordable housing is a Herculean one that we face as a community, and this site has been very carefully thought out, and I think it's ill-advised for us as a council body to interrupt the flow and the careful work that's been done by the experts, both from the department and the council. I hope that there will be insights that the community and the department and the society and the council get from this particular development that will allow on future occasions for a more diverse housing mix that incorporates a lot of the elements that have been contributed in the amendments and the discussion. I commend the motion as per the business paper.
Thank you. It being a planning matter, a record of voting is required. All those in favour of the recommendation as per the business paper? Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Willington, Councillor Magna, Councillor Hay, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Gordon, Councillor Rosenfeld, Martin, Wilson, said D'Souza and the Mayor. All those against? I have Councillors Veach, Asghari and Burst. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. We now move to CS 62/24 Active Transport Plan, challenged by Councillor Hay. Councillor Hay, could you please outline what it is that you're moving? I will then call for a seconder.
Now, I'd like everyone to cast their mind back just 2 weeks.
Could you just outline what you're moving?
I sent an amendment through to Mr. Kelly. Essentially that 2 weeks ago, we voted to set up a bike path review, and that while there's an active transport analysis part of the plan, which I'm happy with. With regards to the walking and cycling implementation strategy, I think it's premature to accept that before we've done the bike path review. So I'm requesting a deferral on the bike path review, sorry, the active transport, sorry, the other one. The active transport walking and cycling plan. So in essence, the active transport analysis is fine, but the actual walking and cycling plan should be done after we've done the bike path review. I appreciate the work that's gone into this. It is great, and the analysis is good and informs our strategy, but we have had a very recent change to we may yet have a very recent change to the way we're approaching cycling in our community. I think we need to go through that review in full before we can commit to a new active transport plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Luxford.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago I moved the motion to have a review on cycling paths in our local government area, where we're up to, where we're going, what ones are there, you know, what stages we're all at. And I note that in the report that we have here, a review would need to be done and an update on the 2015 bicycle route construction priority list. So I think that by deferring this and doing our review, it will further enable us to be able to do our priority list in a better way after we've conducted the review on all of our cycling tracks. In this, the residents have had their say, and they're very vocal about their say and how they feel about these bicycle tracks. I note that the active plan, the active thing here is walking and cycling together. So some of the results and things are high and low, have been mishmashed from cycling and walking. And while I'm in favour of some of these, I'm not in favour of others. And I note that the residents have put the Anzac Parade C1 as their priority. And a few years ago, and we've been going backwards and forwards on all these bicycle issues, for those of us who have been around, we even voted as councillors that Anzac Parade be the priority, and it be that we start off with that construction first. And unfortunately that didn't happen, and we ended up on another route going to nowhere. So yeah, I'd like deferral so that we can proceed with the review that I've requested, and that we can be better informed to be able to assist our residents and everyone else around who's concerned about this report.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers on the motion as moved? Councillor Said, would you like to ask a question?
Just through the relevant officer, Mr. Mayor, I suppose I shouldn't ask opinions, but in the relevant officer's opinion, do we need that, because it is a motion and we do need to work on it, do we need that actual bike plan, or would it be useful in the future adoption of the active transport plan? Does it actually have to be done before we can do it, or will it actually be a great help before we can do it? Or do we can adopt the action plan tonight without having to actually see the results of the actual survey?
Through to the Director of City Services.
Thank you. Through yourself, Mr. Mayor, the active transport plan is the high-level strategic document. A key action in both that strategic document and Council's integrated transport strategy was to update the bicycle route construction priority list that was adopted by Council in 2015. So the action item of that priority list was listed in the plan and the strategy, if that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Magna.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment to a resolution as per the business paper.
Okay, thank you. Do I? No, that is not correct. Thank you, councillors. He's moving an amendment, as he used the word amendment. It's moved Councillor Magna, seconded Councillor Veach. Councillor Magna, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the sentiment and the intent of the amendment, but I think the work that is being undertaken by the council officers with respect to the resolution that was passed at the September meeting is proceeding in any event. To do an amendment to this piece of work for the active transport plan that's been considered at this council meeting would effectively put a degree of uncertainty in relation to the proposal that has been put in the business papers for consideration by councillors at tonight's meeting. There's a range of reasons why the active transport plan represents a very significant step forward for sustainable transport in the Randwick Council area. There's a large amount of work, a large amount of consultation that has been undertaken by the council officers. They are to be congratulated for the work that they have done. The plan has a large amount of community support. 76% of respondents either said they were very happy or neutral on the plan, and only a very 24% said they were unhappy with the plan. The plan has had a lot of detailed work that's been undertaken at a regional level with other councils, including the City of Sydney, including Waverley, that has recently adopted their active transport plan, and Bayside Council. And the frustration that I think has been articulated by even those people that have spoken against the Bundog Park plan is that it's taken council too much time to get things happening. Let's start digging dirt. Let's start enabling the work of the council officers to get on with what we all need to face up to is a reality of our transport planning future, and that is active transport, cycling. The game has also changed with respect to e-bikes. E-bikes now enable trips that weren't conceivable or attractive but 5 years ago, but the prevalence of e-bikes now mean that the challenging topography of our local government area is navigable. There are north-south routes that are desirable routes, and we know that from the Opal transport data. We know that from the amount of people that travel on buses in a north-south direction, but there is an absence of routes. This active transport plan addresses that gap. It meets the community need, and for that reason I oppose the amendment and support the proposition as per the business paper for the active transport plan to be adopted tonight by council.
Thank you. Councillor Magna will be heard in silence. Thank you. Councillor Veach.
Thank you. I too will support the recommendation and the report as per the business papers. Councillors and Mr Mayor, what you see here is a really this is just the bicycle network being proposed. But these routes, this whole plan is all about supporting not just cycling, but predominantly walking. It's about active transport, and it's about making it easier to get around our city when you don't want to drive a car. And for most of us, we are doing a combination. Sometimes we walk, sometimes we drive, sometimes we ride a bike, and we all deserve to feel safe no matter how we move around our city. We shouldn't be prioritising the safety of someone when they're driving a car, but then say to that same person when they choose to ride a bike, well, actually, you know, the other drivers, you know, your safety is not a priority at this time. The other thing I'll point out is that, you know, we also get a lot of other terrific things when we start to implement these active transport routes, such as pedestrian crossings, signalised crossings, footpath improvements and landscaping. And we already see at the Avoca, Sturt and Bundog intersection that we have received ahead of time funding for the installation of signalised traffic lights to improve safety for motor vehicle drivers, cyclists and most definitely pedestrians at what is an accident black spot. And I have had some very near misses there myself, driving at very, very low speeds because it's very, very close to a school zone. The other thing I'll note is that, you know, as opposed to what may be said here, you know, the Anzac, that big Anzac route in red is still the number one route. We all agree that that is the most important one. I think most of the councillors, most of the community of Randwick agree that that is the number one priority. And I hope we really do forge ahead and receive funding to get that put through. It'll be an absolute game changer. So I also personally know from being a West Ward councillor now for many years is that the community of Randwick Girls and Randwick Boys High School, the two PNCs which are now merging, and the president of the new Randwick PNC, who has, I know personally, and has kids at both Randwick Girls and Randwick Boys, and has been the president of Randwick Boys. They support, the PNCs support it, as do the Rainbow Street Public PNCs. That particular president has been who lives in South Coogee, not far from South Coogee Public School, and I know that they ride down those routes, so they're very close to the top of Bundock Street. She was in a terrible accident on her bike. She is not a person in Lycra, she is a mum, and she got wiped out on the intersection of Barker Street when she had right-of-way. She lost the use of both arms for like 6 weeks. She was literally like, one was fractured, one was dislocated. It was a shocking accident, and I think the motorists at the time simply did not feel that they had to give way to a cyclist when she had right-of-way. So it is dangerous. That's a particularly dangerous area. The school community, the parent community in that vicinity have been, of Sturt Street, Bundock and so on, have been crying out for safety improvements for many, many years. And so I would urge the councillors, particularly those who may not be so familiar with that area, to listen to the precinct, to the PNCs, to the parent and school communities of that area, to what they have been calling for the pedestrian and cycling improvements that this active transport plan will deliver. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor De Souza.
Mr. Mayor and councillors, climate change is real. We've all seen and felt the effects of climate change, the heavy rains, the drought, the landslides, the tsunamis, cyclones and other unexplained catastrophic climate events. My request tonight will admittedly sound self-interested, but I can assure you it promotes the best interests of the community. Coming here this evening, my friends, I have no hidden agenda. I am fighting for my future. Losing my future is not like losing an election or a few points on the stock market. I'm here to speak for all the generations to come. At the moment, I'm afraid to go out in the sun, not because of the hole, not now, because of the holes in our ozone layer caused by years of carbon monoxide poisoning and destruction of our atmosphere. I'm afraid to breathe the air because I don't know what chemicals are in it. Climate change, as I said, my friends, is real, and we need to take immediate action to address it. A simple thing like building safe cycleways and embracing the Randwick Active Transport Plan is so important. It can be the first step of many to initiate behavioural change. More residents riding their bikes would decrease our carbon footprint and the burning of fossil fuels by cars. I am only a councillor, yet I know we're all part of a family, 5 billion strong, in fact 30 million species strong, and borders and governments will never change that. I am only a councillor, yet I know we're all in this together to save our planet and should act as one single world towards one single goal. In my anger, friends, I'm not blind, and in my fear, I'm not afraid of telling the world how I feel and what we can do to decrease our carbon footprint by using bicycles and creating safe, dedicated cycleways, which will encourage residents to stop using their fuel-guzzling cars that pollute our environment and decrease our quality of life, and instead encourage them to ride bicycles. That is why I will be voting to support the Randwick Active Transport Plan as it is in the business paper today.
Thank you very much. A hand up from Councillor Hay.
So, with regard to the Bundock Sturt cycleway, that's come up a fair bit. Councillor Magna talked about the main frustration from the community being that it's taken too long. I assure Councillor Magna that is not the case. The main frustration with the project is that you would lose all the parking spaces along the south side of Bundock Street. It was actually put to council, I believe, when Councillor Shuri was the mayor. Do we remove the nature strip and perhaps move the footpath a little, or do we cut out all the parking spaces on the south side of Bundock Street? And they move all the parking spaces, which is something local residents simply do not want. And I also encourage everyone, as I have done, to go find a spot on Sturt or Bundock Street and just count the number of bicycles that actually travel east-west. Go during peak hour. You'll see, I counted, was it one every 15 minutes? I mean, are we seriously going to remove something like 100 parking spaces for bicycles that come for cyclists in peak hour? And that's not on a rainy day. When it rains, traffic gets a lot worse, in part because cyclists don't want to go cycling in the rain, or at least in heavy rain. Councillor Veach also talked about the Bundock Sturt traffic lights. You can be like me and support the traffic lights without supporting the cycleway proper. And then you've got talk about safety. As you know, we were talking about who's been in the Randwick Council the longest. My family's owned a property in Kensington for 110 years. Since 1910. It is about 50 metres south of that property. There was a car that flipped upside down. That has not happened in the over 100 years that we've owned the property. That has happened recently because the road had narrowed because of the cycleway. Now, we don't have video footage, but the knowledge that everything getting tighter and people speeding may have been a factor, but it almost certainly was. But if they're speeding at 50 k's an hour, they're going to speed at 40 k's an hour as well. The reality is that we've got we have cases of cycling, these cycleways actually causing safety concerns. Now, the amended form in which I originally chose to move the motion says, you know what, we shouldn't necessarily be talking about this at this exact stage. What we should be doing is waiting for the report to come back so that we can make a fully measured decision. And that's what I urge everyone to vote against this amendment and vote for my original motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Said, there appears to be some confusion as it relates to the procedure. And so what I would like to do is throw to the General Manager, just for clarification for the benefit of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, as we previously discussed, on your business paper is a recommendation from the staff. So it's not a motion, it's just a recommendation. Councillor Hay then moved a motion, and Councillor Hay used the words, which is the correct words, I'm moving this motion in an amended format to what's actually on the business paper. But that is just the motion, the first motion in front of Council. So we have one motion, and then Councillor Magna then moved an amendment. So we have a motion from Councillor Hay, which is in an amended form of the recommendation, which is the correct terminology, but still the motion. Then there's an amendment to that by Councillor Magna.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers on the amendment? Councillor Said.
I'm totally in favour of bike pass, Mr Mayor, and I'm speaking in favour of the amendment. I just want to ask a couple of questions and then talk after that. First question is to the relevant officer, when is the likelihood of the Houston Road bike path to be built?
Through to the Director of City Services.
Through yourself, Mr Mayor, at the time of this meeting I'm unable to provide a timeline. What I could say is that it was only just recently that Council did receive funding just for the design of the final stage of that particular cycleway, and then as such construction is not around the corner exactly.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And my second question to the relevant officer, Mr Mayor, is throughout the analysis, is there any mention of a priority list? I know we have one that's been voted by the residents, but is there an actual priority list amongst councillors or in the report that actually numbers which cycleways are actually being built first or last or middle or whatever?
Through to the Director of City Services.
Thank you. Through yourself, Mr. Mayor. No.
So actually, in some ways, the whole discussion of Sturt Avenue and Bundock could be just a waste of time compared to that there's another 15 cycleways that might be prioritised before it. And actually, Mr. Mayor, at the same time, I can see the other side of the argument because myself and I think Councillor Luxford met with the residents of originally when Councillor Shuri brought this up, Bundock Street, Sturt Avenue, so it shows you how long ago it was. And we met the residents of Bundock Street to find out why they were opposing it, and it's very understandable why they are. So rather than dismiss their arguments, they did have some very good arguments. So I'd like that to be noted that in any future plans they should be listened to, and they are residents. And my actual main priority is, as I said, I'm all for cycleways, and as I've said, I think every time this topic has come up in the last 7 years, that councillors, as Councillor Luxford said, and residents have always made Anzac Parade the #1 priority. And it's actually about 3 times in the survey, it's about 3 times as much people said they want that as a priority than they did for the South Coogee to Maroubra. So I just wish that we could actually get this over and done with and apply for funding to the state government, and we could fund what is the priorities. And if we all unite and go with this plan rather than picking and choosing which ones we want over other ones, if we listen to the people and we listen to the analysis and we listen to the councillors and we listen to our residents, we should build the first one that people are crying out for, and it's Anzac Parade. And I've said this for 7 years, and I'll continue to say it, that Anzac Parade should be the whole and soul funding analysis, and we should be asking for money for it, and we can do it by step. I know it's a very long route, but it'd be a very beneficial route. It's very narrow road in parts, Anzac Parade, and I've seen people ride with their kids on the back, and it's very dangerous, and I really feel for them, especially during peak hours. So I really wish we could move all our efforts and prioritise a couple of sections and prioritise bike tracks, and we just get this started and over and done with. But we actually prioritise based on what people have asked us for, and I really wish that we could actually do it as a united block for the future, and actually do it where the residents, and where it's very safe. As I said, Street to myself, there's plenty of driveways there and I don't understand it. And there's the big hill in Bundock Street that makes it very dangerous, and it comes out at the street. As I said, the residents told explain to us why it is. So if we could pick the safest route as Anzac Parade, and it would suit virtually everyone from north, south, east and west, and I just would like that. I'd love it to be an active plan where we said, this is our priority list, and it comes to council and we vote on it, which is probably in part of the review. So that's why I'd like the review to be adopted within the analysis. Thank you.
Councillor Luxford.
Yeah, I just have a question through to the relevant officer. On page 34, it says with the adoption of the active transport plan and update, which I mentioned before, of the 2015 priority list will be undertaken based on cycling network and community consultation process. So when will that happen? And councillors will then have the opportunity to prioritise the bike tracks, I'm presuming. So how soon will we have this opportunity to prioritise Anzac Parade, as we've already prioritised it 2 terms ago? Like, I've lost track now, but we did prioritise it, but for some reason a bike track was put in Doncaster Avenue, which I think at the time was number 6, and Anzac Parade was number one, but we still went ahead and built Doncaster Avenue. So, and, you know, to quote one of my colleagues, we've made a lot of mistakes there that we could learn from to going forward. So, yeah, when would we be able to prioritise things in concrete?
Okay, through to the Director of City Services.
Thank you. Through yourself, Mr. Mayor. As previously mentioned, the bicycle route construction priority list that was adopted by Council in 2015 is a key item in Council's integrated transport strategy, or a key strategic approach. The item was placed on hold pending the adoption of the active transport plan. Should the active transport plan be adopted by Council, again, this priority list would be one of the first action items that Council officers undertake inside that plan. As a result of that particular exercise, Council would have the ability to decide on the construction priority list as an updated, say, 2025 version, and Council officers would conduct the appropriate community consultation process to aid Council in their decision-making process for that new list.
Through to the questioner. Any further questions? No, thank you. Are there any further speakers on the amendment Magna Veach? There being no further speakers on the amendment Magna Veach, I'll now put it. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? I declare the amendment carried. Okay, we now move to the substantive debate on the motion which is now amended. Magna Veach, are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I will now put it. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? I declare it carried. Okay, councillors Rosenfeld and Luxford and Hay would like their names, and Burst would like their names as voting against. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. We now move to CS 63/24 Coogee Beach Volleyball Association Licence Agreement Alteration Request, challenged by Councillor Martin. Councillor Martin, could you please outline what it is you're moving? I'll then call for a seconder.
Sure, thank you. I would like to move as per the business paper recommendation with a slight amendment to the summer Sunday times.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hamilton.
To read or to delete the time on a Sunday, use of all courts between 12 and 8 p.m, and to instead include and to read use of courts 4 and 5 only from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Martin, feel free to address the council.
So on a Sunday, changing it to an 8 a.m. start on a Sunday. For courts 4 and 5 only.
Sorry, Councillor Martin has the floor. No, it's Martin Hamilton. Mr. Kelly.
With the indulgence of the Mayor, can I just briefly confer with Councillor Martin?
With my indulgence, I will briefly pause, yes. How about this? How about we have a brief adjournment for 2 minutes, because I would love to go to the bathroom. So how about that?
I'm dedicated as well.
Councillors, here is your 1 minute, 30-second call. Thirty-second call. 10-second call. Thank you, councillors. I reopen the Randwick Council meeting at 8:06 p.m. Very liberal 2 minutes, but we'll take it. Please sit down. Thank you. Councillor Martin, could you please outline to the meeting what it is you're seeking to move?
Yes, thank you. A little bit simpler for us all to understand, please. So summer Sundays, yes, the use of courts 1 to 3 from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Use of courts 4 and 5 from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
No, that was
Councillor Hamilton is the seconder. Is that right? Yep. Okay, thank you. Councillor Martin, please speak to your motion as amended. Thank you.
Speak to it.
I know, Councillor Veach has just asked me to clarify it.
Sorry, was the change just the Sunday?
I can't hear Councillor Veach ask that question. I think
Councillor Veach, can you please put it on?
Sorry, I forgot to turn my mic on. So I'm just trying to clarify what's being requested here. Is everything the same except for on Sunday courts 4 and 5?
Correct, that's right.
Everything else is the same?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you. As can be seen by the diagram on page 94, these courts 4 and 5 are far removed from any nippers program that would be running on a Sunday for it to be an issue. In fact, the club has had a letter of support from the nippers saying that it would not be an issue for them. The additional 2 courts would bring around 16 more people to the area in the mornings, which I believe will not impact public safety or crowd control concerns. Most members, I am told, either ride a bike, walk to the beach, alleviating any parking concerns. Beginning a day of training or competition at midday during the peak of summer is probably not the best choice of time. In fact, I'd probably recommend them having a break around midday. I've spoken to the President, Mr Poulter, several times. We've heard from Miss Yuritzabira tonight, who are here tonight. The Coogee Club is the largest beach volleyball club in New South Wales and has many champions, including 12 juniors who recently won medals at the Australian Championships. I believe we should be doing everything we can to promote the growth of this club and the contribution they make to our community, in particular our youth. I ask you all to agree with this slide amendment I've put forward. Thank you.
Can I just ask you a question?
Before I do that, I'll go to Councillor Hamilton as the seconder.
Yes, I think that what Councillor Martin is putting forward is entirely reasonable. And given the depth of investigation she's done and the people that she's spoken to, I hope that she retains full support and the Volleyball Association can enjoy the beach for a little bit longer and not impact many people in doing so.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Veach.
Oh, sorry, my microphone was still on. Just sort of a question and also maybe a suggestion. Obviously, during summer and during the nipper season, the beach is heavily used by nippers. Is that area at the north end of the beach sort of just used by people for passive recreation? You know, would it interfere with that? And also, I'm not necessarily against it, but this is a genuine question. Would that be sort of interfering with people who just want a bit of space to use the beach when it's extremely busy with nippers? And maybe a compromise would maybe to trial it for this season and then see how, and then review it at the end potentially. Don't know.
Can I confirm? Is that a question to the mover?
Yes. Sorry,
Okay.
it's a question
Through
to the
the
mover.
mover.
Thank you.
I can confirm, Councillor Veach, that Sunday morning nippers, now the way they run it, it's children only on the sand, or the adults are not actually on the sand, so there's less crowding on that sand area. As I said, these 2 courts are tucked up behind the fishing shed. That's someone, you're not just passively going to walk to. So it'd be my submission that no, it wouldn't interfere with any passive people that want to use that particular area. It's really quite tucked up out of the way.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Burst, and then I'll go to Councillor Wellington. Is that, you had your hand up? Okay, Councillor Burst and Wellington.
I would just like to commend Councillor Martin on this amendment. It's a great initiative, and I look forward to seeing future Olympians coming out of Coogee Beach and being the breeding ground for our future next generation of volleyball champions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wellington.
I certainly agree, Councillor Burst, and I'd like to support Councillor Martin's amendment and particularly speak in favour of anything council can do to help people avoid the midday sun. We shouldn't be supporting anything that forces people to play at the height of the UV risk, so let's get them out there as early as reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually had Councillor Burst, then I'll go to Councillor... Oh, you've already spoken to Councillor De Souza, my apologies.
Mr. Mayor, I've always believed ward councillors know their wards best. That's why I'll be supporting this. And Carolyn Martin is very humble. She actually is an Australian champion in high jumping. And of course, there's a ward at St. Catherine's named after her. So sport is very important to her, and she understands the importance of sport. And my friend Claire, being a doctor, she understands the importance of healthy activities. So congratulations on this. As I said, ward councillors know best. So the amendment you put forward is something you understand better than all the rest of us. And so you got my support on that one. And thank you. And as I said, don't be so humble. Let us all know how great you are.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Martin, do you wish to close the debate?
I have nothing further to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put it. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Declare that carried. Okay, we now move to CS 64/24 Maryborough Reserve proposed off-leash dog park challenged by Councillor Gordon. Could you please outline what it is you are moving?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to move it as recommended in the business paper. Thank you.
Councillor Rosenfeld is the seconder. Councillor Gordon, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, look, I would just like to get up and say and thank Ms. Hamer for addressing council earlier, and I, as a family of a dog owner, I acknowledge that as dog-owning families, we have a responsibility to do the right thing. My view is that the vast majority of these dog-owning families are doing the right thing, and that council rangers will always be there to make sure that people are, respecting the community with their pets. Now, with regards to this proposal, I think that the overwhelming support for it, the 83% of survey responses, I think just tells me that this is a pretty simple proposal. And given the changing nature of the way people are living, if we want people to live in diversity of housing types, for example, many of those housing types don't have yards, so it's super important that we support the creation of off-leash dog parks for those pets to get vital exercise for their day. So yes, in conclusion, I would just like to move it as per the business paper. Thank you. Hope you support.
Thank you, Councillor Rosenfeld.
Yeah, very happy to second it as per the business paper. 83% is very overwhelming. I'm also a dog owner and know the importance of exercising dogs and making sure they're out there in off-leash parks. I've also been in favour of off-leash dog parks for Maryborough for some time. Other councillors in Central Ward haven't been. I'm glad they changed their tune, but I have been really since for the last 3 years since I've been a councillor. So really happy with the recommendation. I do believe that signage is needed where it's on leash. However, now this is going to be off leash. Fantastic. Get rid of the signs. And let's see some dogs off leash there, and I look forward to taking my dog Ralph there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sid.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as you know, I've proposed this probably for the last 7 years with Councillor Shuri. But somebody did note of interest. As the Speaker said, if you look at page 8 of 46 in the actual consultation, on the map there's a defined line of where the off-leash part of the park is, and it's not the entire part of the park. that's what I'm saying, are we proposing to build a fence there? Or how do we stop the mitigation from off-leash dogs going across the whole of the park? So on page 8 of 46 in the actual booklet, there's a little diagram of proposal, and there's dots there, which makes it look like there's an actual fence all the way around. But are we proposing to put a fence all the way around, or is that we're just saying that that section's off leash and the other section isn't? And how do we mitigate that no one's going to let their dogs run across that line, the invisible line? If you look at the diagram to the left and the diagram on the right, and there's an arrow that says proposed off-leash dog park, but my memory serves me, there's no actual fence across that part. The fence goes right around the perimeter of the park. So the question is, do we propose to build a fence, or we just have an imaginary line of which side is which?
Through to the Director of City Services.
Thank you. Through yourself, Mr. Mayor, it is the plan that the entire area is a designated off-leash area. I believe the aerial or graphic image that you're referring to depicts the delineation between the school and the park.
Thank you for that, but can I just note that that's not the way it looks to me. I don't know if other councils think the same. I'm not voting against the off-leash dog park. I was noting the words of the speaker. It actually made prick my ears up. That according to this, there's a defining line of which is part of the dog park and which part isn't, and there's nothing there to say that. But in the future, we really do need to say to people, you're allowed here, and there won't be dogs running all over you if you do decide to use that part of the park, and this side has to be. You know what I mean?
Through to the Director of City Services.
Thank you. Through yourself, Mr. Mayor, I can confirm I have access to an image that is the dashed yellow line that the council is referring to on page 8 of 46 is in fact the school fence.
Just for the benefit of the meeting, and then I'll throw to Councillor Veach. To the Director of City Services, is it intended for the off-leash dog area to encompass the fenced Maroubra Community Garden?
So through yourself, Mr. Mayor, the community garden won't be accessible to dogs.
Thank you very much. Councillor Veach.
Yeah, that was sort of the gist of my question. Is there going to be a way to sort of perhaps provide a little bit of extra protection, not protection, but, you know, separation for people using the playground? I know there's already a fence around that, but I gather from the speaker, Ms. Harmer, that there needs to be a 10-metre gap. Is that right? Zone around it, and also the area. So will the dogs be sort of just running off leash in those other areas close to the playground and the community garden?
Through to the Director of City Services.
Thank you. Through yourself, Mr. Mayor, the report does allude to the need for the installation of infrastructure and gates and the like to protect the elements of the reserve outside of the off-leash dog area.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Gordon, do you wish to close the debate?
I reserve my right. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put it. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to CC 31/24, C Place on Country update, challenged by Councillor Magna.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have foreshadowed an amendment to the recommended motion. I've provided that to Mr. Kelly. The amendment being at the conclusion of the words, the budget process, that we add that the budget be capped at $290,000.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor D'Souza. Okay, Councillor Magna, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, Mr Mayor, very briefly. I'd like to begin by thanking the council officers for the tremendous amount of work that they've done in getting the proposal to this point in time. I appreciate that there's been a bit of history prior to my time on this council in the Knox Night Sculpture Walk, which was a very culturally significant event. And I think it shows real vision. Lots of consultation with the La Perouse Aboriginal community, and for that the council is to be commended. It also aligns with the expectations and the vision that the council has stated to animate our stories of our First Nation people and to celebrate those histories and those stories and to make that part of the culture and heritage of this particular area, and locating it in the La Perouse area where there's obviously a deep connection with the Bidjigal traditional owners, I think is particularly commendable. The amendment doesn't in any way seek to diminish from the important work and the commendable proposal that's been brought, but it's really just to recognise that there is a concern among some councillors that we achieve value for money, and this amendment seeks to impose some degree of discipline upon this project that could have a tendency to cost more than was originally intended. So I hope that it doesn't in any way limit the work that the council has done, and I encourage my fellow councillors to support the amendment and the resolution on the basis of the business papers. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dusuk. Okay, thank you. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Burst, your question?
Just a question through the relevant officer. Will any funding be coming from the Aboriginal Land Council?
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, no.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Burst. Are there any further speakers on the matter? Okay, there being no further speakers, Councillor Magna does not seek to close the debate. I'll now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Okay, thank you. We now move to CC 32/24, Randwick Draft Mobile Food Vending Policy, challenged by Councillor Luxford. Councillor Luxford, could you please outline what it is you're moving? I'll then call for a seconder.
Yeah, I'd just like to move as per the business paper.
Do I have a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Burst. Councillor Luxford, please continue.
Yeah, so I congratulate the officers on this policy. It's been a long time coming, and I'm especially excited that we are opening up to food trucks outside of our area, because I think some of us have probably grown tired of the same ones all the time, and diversity in food trucks is a really good thing, because it will bring different foods, different cultures into our area. I just have one question though. Where is it? Just in relation to the trial on point C. So those food trucks that will be there via expression of interest, it will be 6 months for the food trucks themselves. Like, will those food trucks be alternating, or it's like one food truck gets to be there for whatever?
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. At this point in time, we are proposing that they are on a monthly rotation for 6 months.
Perfect. And just one more question. Would we consider the food trucks be able to go into residential streets or, other suburbs, like where there may be a little corner park in a street or something like that at all?
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, there are possibilities in order to do that. There are some exclusions as outlined in the policy. However, this will also be on exhibition, so we would welcome any feedback from community around that also.
Third thing, City of Sydney, I'm not sure if they do it anymore, but they had a food truck thing happening where they had an app and you could follow the food trucks via the app and know what street a food truck was going to be in or what park, etc., etc. Would we also consider something like this?
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I know the app that you're speaking of, and it is no longer in existence for City of Sydney because social media has taken over that sort of pathway. However, the promotion of the local food trucks is something that we would look at.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Burst is the seconder.
I'd like to commend the council staff on this document, this policy. It's a very complex one. A lot of stakeholders that play a part in that, from fixed businesses through to food trucks. The 4 clear areas, the MVVVs, call it, having food trucks and food vans combined into a mobile food vending vehicles. I love that concept. The itinerant operations section, being 200 metres from established businesses, fixed sites being 150, and then eat, drink and play locations, and also monthly food truck markets. They're great initiatives. Will add some vibrancy to Randwick City Council, will help stimulate our economy, get people out and about, and so I'm looking forward to seeing this going out to public consultation and seeing what the next steps are.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Luxford, do you wish to close the debate? Okay, I'll now put it. All those in favour? All those against, declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to CC 33/24, Community Engagement Strategy, moved by Councillor Magna. Councillor Magna, could you please outline what it is you're moving?
I'm moving as per the recommendation in the business paper that Council endorses the revised community engagement strategy to be placed on public exhibition.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? A seconder?
No.
Do I have a seconder?
No, I will.
Seconded Councillor Gordon. Councillor Gordon, do you wish to speak?
I reserve my right.
Thank you.
I wish to amend.
Thank you. Councillor Wellington, if you could please outline what it is you're seeking to amend.
First of all, I would like to say hearty thanks to everybody involved in getting this very useful document revised. It's really very important that we have a useful structure and a practical structure for community engagement, and we value this, and thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Some discussion going on about how to work these amendments. So on close reading of the community engagement strategy, I would like to move 5 amendments. The first 4 as a group. Mr. Kelly, I sent them to you, but I would now like to move the first 4, 1 to 4 as a group, and the 5th one separately.
Can I just ask, Councillor Magna, do you accept amendments 1 to 4?
We do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kelly, so 1 through 4 are incorporated, and then we now leave into the motion.
So I'm very keen that councils are aware that this is about detail, and council officers, that this is not anything to do with the spirit of the strategy, which I completely endorse. It's more to do with the detail, and of course this strategy builds on the previous one, so there are changes and amendments and updates. I'll draw your attention to page 14 and 15 if you have the strategy in front of you. I have some concern that the consolidation on these 2 pages, whilst I can understand the intention, in fact is a wasted opportunity. This is a very, very valued, important resource to which members of the community may turn in the first instance to understand more about our demographics. And when you find it difficult to source that information in other places, that's a very useful resource. And so this amendment asks for that that the data on these pages be updated, not consolidated. So to remove the proposed yellow section and update the data in the blue section in full for all categories. So that's Amendment 1. Amendment 2, if you I draw your attention to page 20, under section headed Interagency Meetings, to simply retain Police, Aboriginal and Consultative Committee. Amendment 3 on page 27, how we engage, under section 5.2, to just add meet quarterly after advisory committees. I think that's important for the community to know that when we do include them and engage with them, that there is some sense of what the strategy requires in relation to how frequently we would require that engagement, so that people don't think that we want to meet with them every month or only once a year, but there is some kind of idea of how frequently that would be required. So just to add, meet quarterly. And then also on page 27, which is Amendment 4, under what is higher impact, could we reinstate annual budgets and operational plans under higher impact category of engagement? I think that the community would expect that of us. So those are that's the first group of amendments, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Yes, so they've been accepted. What I'd suggest now is you speak to Amendment 5, if possible.
I was hoping for a glass of water.
No, it's fair. Well, we're more than happy to wait.
I crave your indulgence. I'm not very well this evening, so okay.
Totally fine.
Amendment 5. Amendment 5 is a very important amendment to many people in the community. I draw your attention to page 33. Table 2. Under level 1, 7th dot point down, I think, it says, website notice only, tree works not affecting adjoining properties. This amendment seeks to upgrade tree works not affecting adjoining properties to level 3, which would include website notice, written notice and site notice. The reason why I propose this change is, whilst I understand that from a purely mechanical point of view, the removal of a tree or the pruning of a tree not affecting adjoining properties at its most mechanical level is something that one might think wouldn't affect people much on the street. But I have recent experience, and I think some of the councillors would have been involved with this, of a big fig tree being removed through this process, through a DA process, on Cusco Street. Now, I don't know how many of you are aware of the removal of that tree, but certainly Councillor Ascari, Councillor Veach, other people in that area, or you might even know this tree. It was a tree that had been loved and cared for and enjoyed for decades, and it affected many people in this street. So whilst objectively it didn't seem to affect the adjoining properties, the people that lived in those adjoining properties...
Can I give it 1 minute extension?
Okay. People that lived in those adjoining properties were very deeply affected, very emotionally and practically, aesthetically, and probably from their general health point of view, affected by the removal of that tree. And if they had had preparation, one of the things that they said to me was, if they had preparation and had known what was going to happen, they would have been able to prepare much better. They didn't seek to prevent the removal because they knew they couldn't, but they would have liked notice. And one of the most hurtful and ongoing hurtful things was they didn't have sufficient notice. So I think this would be a very important structural change that would improve the quality of life for people throughout throughout our local area, and I very much hope that you will find it in your hearts to vote for this small change. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Magna, do you accept or reject the amendment?
We reject the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder for the proposed amendment? Seconded, Councillor Veach. Councillor Veach, do you wish to speak to it? No. Okay. Are there any further speakers on the amendment, which is Amendment 5, inserting page 33, Table 2, public notification requirements for DAs to move tree works from not adjoining properties from Level 1 notice, website notice only, to Level 3, website notice plus written notice plus site notice? Are there any further speakers on that amendment? Okay, there being no further speakers on that amendment, I'll now put it. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? I declare the amendment lost. Okay, thank you. We now move to the debate on this substantive motion. Moved Magna Gordon. I have a hand up. Okay. Councillors, okay, thank you. Are there any further speakers on the motion moved Magna Gordon? I have a hand up from Councillor Hay, and then I'll go to Councillor Asgo.
Question through the matter, the relevant officer. The Police Aboriginal Consultative Committee, that was originally in this report and it's been struck out of the draft version. Why was it struck out in the draft version?
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. The reason that it was struck out is because that is a committee that Council is not officially a member of. We are an observer, unlike the other committees there where we hold a membership.
Okay. Councillor Hay?
To follow up, does the proposed amendment point 2, does that cause any issues because we're not a member of that committee and therefore it shouldn't be on that list?
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I think the inclusion is still relevant.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Hay? Councillor Asghari.
Thank you. I just want to speak on this because it's relevant to my question. QN 19/24, it's a good coincidence, and I want to take this opportunity to sincerely thank Director of Community and Culture and her team for the amazing job they do. And after reviewing the attachment 1, I noticed that the job is beyond my imagination and above my expectations. But I just want to briefly to emphasize on a need to inform community to reach as many residents as possible. So referring to page 46 and 47, there is a public participant spectrum. So inform is the first stage before consult, involve, collaborate, and so on. So I just want to suggest that if possible, Council investigate additional ways to reach more people and to extend the radius of the communication to inform people of any advance. In that case, then we can seek their engagement, input, impact, and etc. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Magna, do you wish to close the debate?
I reserve my rights.
Thank you. I will now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to CC 34/24, Business Sydney Renewal of Membership 2025 to 26. Moved Councillor Rosenfeld. Could you please outline what it is you're moving? I'll then call a seconder.
Okay, just moving as per the business paper, and the reason I agree with this recommendation is that it is very important to keep in touch with Business Sydney. The private sector is very important as a public organisation that we are, that we keep membership and good relations with Business Sydney because we can learn a lot from what they have to offer. Just very briefly, happy to support the recommendation.
Councillor Hamilton is the seconder.
I just concur with Councillor Rosenfeld. It's really important that government bodies stay attuned to what's happening out in the private sector, and so a relationship like this or a subscription to directly to small businesses, large businesses, and especially in the area is very important. So well done.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I take it you don't wish to close. Okay, thank you. I'll now put it. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Declare that carried. CC 35/24, South East Sydney Block Party, challenged by Councillor Gordon. If you could outline what you're moving, and I'll then call for a seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to move as per the business paper.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Veach. Councillor Gordon.
Thank you. I would just like to support this. We're always on the lookout for events, ways we can reach marginalised youth, especially marginalised First Nations youth, and this is really effective value for money. These kind of programs, really demonstrate that they are a good use of the funds we put into them. I understand for my time on council, Randwick has been engaging in quite a lot of instant event previously with COBD and Weave Youth, and I just think not only does it reach people who are otherwise difficult to reach and who are facing systemic disadvantage, but I don't want to stand up here and talk all about addressing disadvantage. I also want to say it's a lot of fun. These events are just great for the community, and I'm very happy to support them.
Thank you. Councillor Veach.
Yeah, this is such a fantastic event, and look, the messages that are getting out to the young people in the area are just incredibly positive. And Weave itself is just a really fantastic organisation doing so much good in our community. And one of the things that they've raised in the past is that, this is just, it's fantastic music. They have headline acts that are renowned across the country. And the other thing is, it means that by us supporting this, it means the sponsorship that Weave gets for all of its community programs with young people, including very young people, both primary and high school aged kids, is that the sponsorship they get, the fact that we can sponsor this means that they can direct the other sponsorship to those bread and butter day-to-day activities. And so, which are not necessarily always council's remit. And so it means they can just get on with the job of providing really vital services to young people in our area, and young people often at risk, and also sending some really positive messages with positive role models. It's fantastic music. It's a highlight of our arts and cultural program as far as I'm concerned. But it also means that young people who, it's an opportunity for also young people to connect with services as well by being attracted to a really terrific event with live music and so on. All of the food that's provided is free. It's also a family event. You see people of all ages there, parents with young kids, teenagers. It's very family friendly, and I urge everyone to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Luxon.
Yeah, just some questions. We've asked for, we previously voted to give them 40,000 a year, and then we've had requests subsequently for extra money 2 of those years, this being the second year, I think, and they're requesting like another 40,000, but we're not giving them that much. Given that Weave is not just working in our area, but also works out of other areas and brings the youth from all around to the block party, wouldn't it be feasible that we approach other councils to assist us to put this on? Because it seems like we're the ones chucking in all the money quite constantly, which is, not a bad thing, but it's quite a large sum of money. Have we ever received anything that tells us how many kids we've actually engaged with and what's come out of it? We don't seem to ever get a breakdown on anything from the block party. So I'd be curious to know what the engagement is and where we end up after the party. But, quite a bit is spent on on entertainment, on all sorts of things, and it seems it's coming just out of our pocket. So would we consider looking at approaching other councils whose kids are coming to the block party to help kick the can?
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. That is definitely something that we will look to consider pending the end of next year's MOU, and we will speak to Weave about any evaluation that they do. They did say that there were 5,000 attendees, but difficult to understand exactly where they've come from, so we could talk to them about that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Luxon.
Yeah, but also just to know that where are they connecting, and what are the results? You know, I work in with the Aboriginal community. I see the best and the worst of it. I see where we do make positive connections and results from the work we are doing. So I would be interested to see how the block party connects. I do know a few people who have attended the block party and obviously haven't connected because they're really not doing so good. So I'd really just be interested to see what their, you know, what their connection is, what results they're getting.
Through to the Director of Community and Culture. Oh, was it a comment or a question?
Well, both.
It was a comment and a question. Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Weave do provide an impact report on what the outcomes are around social connection and cohesion in that community, but we can certainly ask them to provide some more detailed outcomes around the ongoing impact of the event.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Gordon, do you wish to close the debate?
Actually, I'll go for some merit, thanks.
Thank you. I'll now put it. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to motions pursuant to notice, NM 98/24, notice of motion from Councillor Martin concerning electronic bikes, e-bikes.
I second.
Seconded by Councillor Hamilton.
Moving as per the business paper with a slight amendment. I would like to consider the whole motion read, if that's all right with everyone, and I'll just add in the amendments which have been added in. It's quite a long motion. I'm happy to read it all out, or I can just tell you what the amendments are. So, in adding in Part A, dots 2 and 3. So in dot 2, after the words improperly parked bikes, I would like to add, such as geofencing, a technical tool that uses GPS to mark areas where bikes or e-bikes should be left. And in dot 3, after the words enhance community safety, add in, including what powers council staff have to take regulatory action against obstructive or nuisance bikes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hamilton is the seconder. Do you wish to speak to it?
All I would say is that...
Sorry, so my apologies, Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Martin is not finished. Please continue, Councillor Martin. My apologies.
Thank you. To me, this is a no-brainer. And I note Sydney City Council and Parramatta have brought a similar motion before their councils, and I know this is a problem for all metropolitan councils. I will speak on 3 points, and the rest I feel is self-explanatory. Number 1, litter and geo-fencing technology. Our suburbs are littered with these bikes, which are not only an eyesore, but also a safety risk to our community. They're being dumped by the rider without any concerns or responsibilities. Over cliffs, on the beaches, in garden beds, on corners, and mostly at the top of hills. However, I actually did see one parked in the middle of Arden Street last week, before the hill. With the geofencing technology, the companies can enforce speed limits on these bikes, but it can also be used to limit where riders can end their trips and park their bikes. This, I feel, would assist us greatly with this unsightly and unsafe issue we have. Bike companies must take greater responsibility of their product. Number 2, riding on footpaths. E-bikes on the footpaths are of significant concern. I feel the council, in collaboration with police, need to take more proactive measures to address this behaviour. Recently, I've had 2 elderly folks approach me separately to say that an e-bike had collided with them whilst they were walking on the footpath, one incident causing an awful injury. This includes food delivery drivers. Our fresco dining in Coogee Bay Road has created a situation where the pedestrian area is narrower than usual. As a result, e-bike delivery drivers are bringing their bikes onto the footpath, making it more difficult for the pedestrians to walk. And in some instances, I've actually observed them riding their bikes through the pedestrians on the footpath to pick up their food. Number 3, education. I understand bringing a bike onto a footpath is not an offence, but perhaps an e-bike safety campaign to educate these riders and the public on the responsible use of these bikes, including the fact that wearing a helmet is compulsory, would be greatly beneficial. I hope you support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I fully support Councillor Martin. We've seen different companies come and go on our beaches and in our area, bringing e-bike, to our streets, and we've seen this fail time and time again to become a complete nuisance. And the problem, to my mind, and obviously to Councillor Martin's mind, and others should recognise this also, it's not being resolved and it's not getting any better. And in fact, we're seeing sometimes whole stacks of bikes just piled up in a row and no one's there to pick them up. And if they are, they're not doing it quickly enough. Or, as Councillor Martin's pointing out, there's no education for the users to say, put them somewhere appropriate and out of the way of people and prams and other bike users as well. So I think, using Councillor Martin's words, it's a no-brainer. Everyone should support this, and we should try and see if we can put the onus back on the companies, but also the state government need to do something as well. They can't just allow each council to have to put up a singular motion. They need to put their money where their mouth is. If they want safer roads and they also want bike users to get out there as well, then how about helping us and helping all councils sort out this very ongoing issue?
Are there any further... Oh, so I have Councillor Veach and then Councillor Luxford.
I just had a very small amendment, which I sent through to Mr. Kelly, which is to add just a couple of small things. So it's not to remove any of your dot points, but just to note that e-bikes are an environmentally friendly mode of transport, and also add to C to request increased funding for e-bike and bicycle parking stations.
So I will go to the mover of the original motion. Do you accept or reject the proposed amendment?
It's not changing anything else.
The companies will pay for that. So we're now, the burden from the company will go to us.
Well, I could say to point C, request the companies to increase funding.
Yep. What I might do is I'll have Councillor Veach talk to it. I'll call for a seconder. If at any point you'd like to accept or reject it, please let me know, Councillor Martin. Councillor Veach, seconded Councillor Willington, please speak to it.
I'm hoping Councillor Martin may accept it because it just doesn't... it's not really seeking to change anything in her motion, which I support, but many people do ride. I ride an e-bike, and many people do hire, but they are very expensive to purchase. It is a significant investment. So a good option for a lot of people is, in fact, to just grab one of these ones and hire them, and they can often provide a good option sort of maybe to get to a bus stop or a light rail station, or just things where don't quite meet up, and if you're able, you can just jump on one of these hire bikes, and it means you can actually avoid having to drive or a lengthy walk. So they actually make a lot of sense in certain situations, but I agree, like, they do need more regulation, and when people are riding them down the promenade and things like that, and so on, that is a real issue. But they also have filled a real gap, and people do also ride them on the road. And so it's just acknowledging that, they are providing a service, that they are meeting a demand. I think we have to acknowledge that, but we need a bit more control, and we should be writing also to the food companies as well, because unfortunately for those riders, they are just given a time frame that they have to deliver the food by, and that's the kind of business model that's creating a lot of problems. It's the business model that the riders are having to abide by. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. It now is accepted. Are there any... Okay. There's been a procedural motion to put it. All those in favour of putting the motion? All those against? Okay, Councillor Martin, would you like to close the debate? Thank you very much. I'll now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to NM 9924, Notice of Motion from Councillor Hay.
Thanks. I'll just quickly go through this. A little disappointed we only got to 99 notices of motion this year, but maybe we'll get to 100 next year. Look, I just mostly to thank. Look, it's good to know. Made a couple of calls, and looks like we're starting a new Kingsford Carols. Maybe one that'll grow and be even bigger than Coogee Carols. Who knows? Great things start with small beginnings. Like to thank the people involved in getting this off the ground. It was done very much at the last minute, so it wasn't on the printed flyer. If we can get some advertising on the social media, that would be great. Anyway, thanks very much. I adjourn to vote for.
Councillor Rosenfeld is the seconder on the carols.
Yeah, no, happy to support. And while we're speaking about Christmas activities, I went down to South Maroubra last Saturday, and a great event again that I know the council supports, and the Walsh brothers thank the council when I was there, and great for the residents of South Maroubra, and this will be great for the residents of Kingsford.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I take it that you don't wish to close. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. We now moved to, are there any petitions? There being no petitions, okay, thank you. We now move into closed session. The order is as per the business paper. Okay, is there a procedural motion? Okay, to reorder the business paper. Okay, there is a procedural motion.
Yes, I'll put the procedural motion.
Okay. Moved Hamilton, Rosenfeld to reorder the business paper to bring forward the two rescission motions. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Okay. We now move to NR 1/24, Notice of Motion of Rescission, submitted by Councillors Hamilton, Martin and Rosenfeld for the Coogee Beach Amenities Kiosk and Bus Shelter Project Outcomes of Stage 2 Consultation. Councillors, before I move to that rescission motion, being a motion which is seeking to rescind a previous decision, debate is required to be relevant to the rescission motion, just because obviously as a new council, just as a general reminder in relation to that. However, there is a full debate as it relates to that. Can I please have the mover of the rescission, a mover of the rescission motion, Councillor Martin, I take it, and a seconder? Oh, that's all three, yep. And
seconded.
Yep, Councillor Hamilton. Okay, Councillor Martin, the rescission motion.
Yes, I intend to move the motion according to the business paper, that Council endorse A, the concept design for the new building for the Coogee Beach amenities to proceed to planning, approval and documentation. B, the funding strategy for the future redevelopment of Coogee Beach amenities.
Okay, thank you. Do you wish to speak to the rescission?
My understanding.
No.
No.
Okay. The seconder of the rescission motion, Councillor Hamilton.
No, we're going to the vote for the rescission motion, is that right? And then we debate the motion after. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I will now go straight to the vote as it relates to the rescission motion. All those in favour? Aye. All those against?
Aye.
I declare the rescission motion lost. Division. There's been a request for a division.
Division.
Okay, thank you. It's to rescind the previous decision. Yep. That's fine. All right. Okay, all those in favour, please raise your hand of the rescission. Okay, I have Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Hay, Luxford, Rosenfeld, Martin, Said, Burst and D'Souza. All those against. I have Councillor Willington, Magna, Veach, Gordon, Asgari, Wilson and Parker. I declare the rescission motion carried. Councillor Martin, please move your motion.
Speak for the motion again. So I intend to move the motion according to the business paper that Council endorse A, the concept design for the new building for the Coogee Beach amenities to proceed planning, approval and documentation. B, the funding strategy for the future development of Coogee amenities.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Martin?
I do.
Thank you.
In the words of Councillor D'Souza just earlier on, ward councillors know their wards. As an almost daily user of this facility for over 20 years, I would like to perhaps suggest that this statement does apply in this case. I wholeheartedly endorse the project and its design as it's truly needed and long overdue in Coogee. This iconic location in Randwick City attracts residents and visitors year-round, but the amenities, kiosks and bus stop cannot accommodate the demand. This became very clear during the recent Coogee Island Challenge, where over 1,800 swimmers and their families formed long queues to use the bathrooms. This issue is also evident at our special community events such as the Coogee Carols and Anzac Day ceremonies. Just 2 weeks ago, on a weekday, the lawn area was crowded with people using the facilities, and again, long queues for the bathrooms. The bathrooms, known for their unpleasant smell, are, I believe, an embarrassment to our council. However, we are considering all aspects of the new design. As I previously mentioned, as a local resident and almost daily user of this facility, I've keenly watched the stage 2 community consultation take place. 70% of the respondents lived in the local area and 60% were in favour of the rebuild. 91% had used the cafe, 90% had used the bus stop, and about 50% had used the toilets. I would conclude that a high percentage of those surveyed lived locally and or have used the facility. For the overall new design, 60% were in favour, 26% were dissatisfied and 14% unsure. To me, those figures clearly indicate that the community wants the rebuild with the new design to proceed. In fact, recently I conducted my own community consultation. Out of 30 residents who live locally, who sit and have coffee there every day and use the toilets only when they're desperate, 28 of them preferred the new design. I did note a couple of comments received in the community consultation process. The new build is better, more modern design, better laid up facilities, nicer connection to the reserve and beach. And also, the rebuild will really lift the area, making it much more inclusive and open. Our council has invested significantly in hiring an experienced architect to design this building in harmony with its surroundings, resulting in a soft, beachy, low-lying structure with all the necessary facilities. Council staff had put significant effort into a comprehensive communication consultation that yielded positive feedback for the new design. This matter has been before the Council for over 2 years, and I believe the toilet block has been earmarked for over 10 years. Requesting the Council to redesign, it will only incur additional costs and extend the timeline. In the words of another councillor, Councillor Magna, let's get on with it. Let's start digging dirt. I believe the design has a natural beachy vibe that aligns well with the upgraded beachfront, making it suitable for Coogie's future. This new design will not compromise the village feel of Coogee. It's the community members who truly create that sense of a village and belonging. I fully support the recommendation that is on the business papers before the Council tonight, and I ask you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. The seconder of the motion, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. What I would just like to add is that at our last meeting, the majority of councillors resolved to request minor revisions. And what we saw post that meeting was a number of emails coming in from well-meaning residents. I know that there is a lot of passion around major infrastructure in our area, and it is well-meaning, and it does inform us quite clearly that people want the best at all times from their council. However, the emails that we were receiving were not in minor revision in their nature. They were speaking to major redesigns. They were speaking to major reconstructions and to completely redesign the whole concept. So I believe that by putting in a rescission and reverting back to the recommendation on the business paper and reverting back to the design that the community were already consulted on and did agree to, this is the right thing to do for us to move forward, for us to ensure that this project does proceed according to community expectation. So I believe the majority of the community really want this to happen. They want it to happen now, and they're very happy with the design that the council put forward. So I hope everyone supports this motion as it is now.
Okay, thank you. There is a hand up from Councillor Said and then Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd just like to point out why I think you may have noticed that I've changed my vote from last week, and it's come to my attention and people reminded me that when we built the Coogee Surf Club, Mayor at the time, and there was a lot of angst about the design, there was a lot of, and council staff worked in with the architects, and the architects had all faith in his design. The community, some of the community, a small group of community, poo-pooed the whole design, and then in the end, after it was finished, it was magnificent, and it won international awards, not just local awards, but international awards based on the design, and it was a perfect fit for the beach. Also, at the same time as Mayor, when we built the Heffron Centre, people also poo-pooed that design, and that won awards for in design. And I just noticed in the last few days, the actual architect who has designed the beach concept, or the toilet concept that is was proposed to us, is actually for the Matraville Youth Centre, Youth and Community Centre, it was up for awards as well for the fit out, internal fit out, and the use of wood. So we're obviously using fantastic architects, and I'm no expert, and I don't think councillors are either. So I think we should have full faith in architects to actually build what is appropriate to the environment, appropriate to where it is, appropriate that we do have. I know numerous people, as everyone does here, knows that they are the worst toilets probably in the Randwick LGA, apart from maybe the ones at La Perouse. But anyway, so that's another story. But we do need to look at this, and we do need, as Councillor Martin has said, we do need to move on, and there really is. And funny for me that I will be pushing something to happen very quickly in Coogee, because so if it's coming from me, you know that it's very important.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
I've had a number of emails, in fact, a large number, and I think many councillors may have had a large number of emails on this topic since the rescission motion was moved. None of the emails from residents have said it is absolutely imperative that these toilets are built as quickly as possible, no matter what the built form. Most of them have said that they would like revisions. Now, I take Councillor Hamilton's point that yes, residents might actually be looking for an entire reconceptualisation from the architects, but that's not what's been authorised by the council. As you point out very sensibly, Councillor Hamilton, what we've approved is minor revisions, and I can't see that that's a problem. This is a world-famous beach. At least it's very famous in Ireland and probably other parts of the world. But we should proceed carefully and do the best job we can. I don't understand the purpose of rushing into this. I understand the toilets aren't marvellous. This is true. I did go down there last weekend to have a look. I didn't find them smelly, but they are wet. This is a fact. I can't argue with that fact. But I do think we can make them sensitive to as the speaker tonight pointed out, the Coogee plan of management. The building should be sympathetic to the beautiful work that Randwick Council has done over the years with the promenade. It is so much improved over my life. The work that was done in the 80s was phenomenal, very sensitive to the heritage of the area, and I think that should be built upon rather than swept away.
Thank you. Councillors, before I call for any further speakers, this is an excellent example of where I will take a declaration mid-debate. In this instance, I actually have realised that I need to restate my declaration from the previous November meeting. I declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in relation to this as my former roommate's brother-in-law is the current lessee of the Coogee kiosk. I no longer reside with that individual. Secondly, a close personal friend of mine is also a former employee of Sam Crawford Architects, but is no longer employed there. It is a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest, and I will be voting on the matter. At any point you feel the need to make a declaration such as that, please do. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, on the motion is moved Martin Hamilton. Councillor Martin, do you wish to close? Okay, thank you. Councillor Martin, do you wish to close the debate? No. Okay, thank you. There has been a request for a division from Councillor De Souza. I will now put it. All those in favour, please raise your hand. I have Councillor Willington, Councillor Magna, Councillor Hay. Okay, I'm midway reading it. Thank you, Councillor Hay, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Gordon, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor Martin, Councillor Asghari, Councillor Said, Councillor Burst, Councillor De Souza, and the Mayor. Mr. Kelly, could you please note that Councillor Veach has left the room? Thank you, as part of it. All those against. I have Councillor Wilson. Thank you. I declare the motion moved Martin Hamilton carried. Okay, thank you. We now move to notice of rescission 2/24 submitted by Councillors Hay, Rosenfeld, Hamilton and Burst on responsible investments. Can I please have a mover and a seconder of the rescissions? Moved Councillor Hay, seconded Councillor Burst. Councillor Hay, can you please outline why it is the rescission should be moved?
As printed on the business paper, that we do a rescission motion and carry that we endorse. The intent that we move the Randwick Council is maintaining its current risk profile, maximise our returns, does not jeopardise liquidity or credit risk of council, aligning to office and local government guidelines and ministerial orders. Councillors, there's a few things I wanted to say. I did use a bit of technical language here and in the meeting last week. Sorry.
Please continue.
Yes. So I did use a bit of technical language. If I can summarise, I'll go into a bit more layman's terms this week. if I can summarize what happens is we have our money in term deposits because it's one step better than having the money in the bank. So you might earn an extra 1 or 2%, and over a portfolio of 160 million, 1% is $1.6 million. So it's worth putting your money in term deposits rather than just leaving it in the bank. But ultimately, what we want to do is we want to be able to pull out the money as quickly as possible. So, and we want to leave it in very safe institutions, and that's the entirety of why we have our policy set up the way we do. In addition, I won't go through what happened in 2008, the financial crisis again, but it's very important. Now, what we're doing, whenever you vary from that maximizing, if you jeopardize credit liquidity risk, if you move to anything else, what you're doing is you're gambling. And I mean this in the general sense that a lot of people like the environment in this room, and perhaps they feel that they align strongly with ESG principles. But this is like gambling on your favourite team. Now, I'm a big Souths fan. I think that Souths will win the premiership next year. But, and that's why I'm wearing my tie tonight. Now, I think the Souths will win the premiership this year, but it doesn't mean it's a smart investment for me to put my life savings betting that South Sydney will win the premiership. You have to realise that what's happening is that my passion for my football team is clouding my judgment. When you focus on anything other than the core standard metrics of business, what you're doing is you're letting other things affect your judgment, and you're letting the other things get in the way, preventing you from making a good, clear decision. It's best not to invest on whims, on what you're passionate about. It's best to be a bit more neutral and step back. We've also had a very interesting news story last week about this. Although it wasn't addressed that way in the media, you'll recall that a pub chain, Australian Venue Co, decided that they would not celebrate Australia Day in 200 pubs. Now, why on earth, now everyone, I assume, is familiar with pubs. They'll hold trivia night, they'll hold...
Sorry, point of order.
Through to, sorry, yes, Councillor Veitch.
The councillor needs to speak about the rescission motion, and I don't think speaking about January 26 has anything to do with our investment policy.
The indulgence of the meeting, I'm going to exactly that point right now. Okay, well, so thank you. Hold on, thank you. Before us, we have a rescission motion. Comments need to be directly relevant to the rescission, which are the reasons as to why something should be rescinded, rather than engaging in any further substantive debate. What I will do is suggest to Councillor Hay to continue with that in mind.
Yes. So, as a pub, what they will do, they'll try to do everything they can bring in people. So why would they not hold an event? The reason why is that they considered that a social investment. Now, why would Australian Venue Co want to have a social investment? It's to raise their ESG score, perhaps get them extra finance, perhaps get more interest from investors. Now, here's the problem. It backfired. Now, they're held by a private equity firm, but that was a giant blunder, and you all saw it on the news. What would have happened if they were publicly listed is that share price would have dropped, let's say, 10%. And hypothetically, if we had invested in that company, if we put $160 million in Australian Venue Co, then we would have lost that 10%. We would have lost $16 million just because we invested in a company for ESG. Now, I'm not saying that's the exact format which is being proposed, but the other purpose of ESG is that the financial companies will go to businesses and try to get them to make mistakes like Australian Venue Co, and that's not what we should participate in. What we need to do is we need to focus on leaving our money in investments, which are one step better than leaving in the money in the bank. There's 160 million that's going to stay there roughly over the next many years. So it's fine to lock up the money in term deposits. But we need to be able to get the money out, and we need to go with safe, solid institutions, and we need to not be betting on factors which are not which are not relevant to the long-term financial future of council.
Thank you. Councillor Burst.
We should not be gambling with the council's money. So it's important that we stick to tried, true, tested financial options. If you look at the last 12 months, the return on our investments has been phenomenal. Stephen has done an amazing job, our financial manager, and it's important that he's got the opportunity to invest in investments that will give us the best return for ourselves and for our ratepayers. Our ratepayers expect us to get the best return on our investment for the money that we have that's tucked away for projects in our community.
Thank you. The question is that the motion be rescinded. I'll now put it. All those in favour? There's been a request for a division. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay, I have Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Hay, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Rosenfeld, Martin, Said, Burst. All those against, I have Councillor Wellington, Magna, Veach, Gordon, Asgari, Wilson, D'Souza and the Mayor. I declare the rescission lost. Okay, we now go into closed session, CS 65/24, but we'll wait until the gallery is cleared. Thank you. Tell me when we're recording. Okay, I now read the outcomes of the confidential session. CS 65/24 Woomera Reserve Playground Upgrade Tender was carried unanimously. CC 37/24 Community Service Awards was carried unanimously. CC 38/24 Des Renford Maintenance Services was carried unanimously. CO 64/24 the recommendation on the business paper was carried unanimously. There being no further items on the agenda, I now close the December Randwick Council meeting at 9:35 p.m. Thank you, councillors. Thank you very much.